Chapter 1540. Liang Yong, Liang Yong, don't tell this sect master that you didn't know anything about what happened here. Yang Kai sneered as he stared at Liang Yong. The latter's body trembled as a look of horror appeared on his face. Sect master is wise. Subordinate really didn't know anything about this matter. This was the first time subordinate heard about it today. Only now did he realize the situation in Blue Wave City was so bad. How could Liang Yong dare admit it? He had seen Yang Kai's methods before, so if he really admitted it, this place would be his burial ground today. No matter what, he couldn't admit it, so Liang Yong denied it. You won't shed tears until you see the coffin? Must I find evidence before you give up? Since that's the case, this sect master will fulfill your wish. Give me your space ring. Yang Kai's expression became cold as he shouted. Liang Yong's entire body was drenched in cold sweat. How could he agree? He could only open his mouth and say, "Sect master, I beg sect master to reconsider." This subordinate is completely loyal to sect master and will definitely not disobey sect master's wishes or do anything that would tarnish the sect's reputation. This space ring is subordinate's secret. Even if sect master requests it, subordinate cannot agree. Please understand, sect master. Enough nonsense. Yang Kai coldly snorted before reaching out and grabbing the ring on Liang Yong's hand. A look of struggle flashed across Liang Yong's face before his eyes filled with determination. Seeing Yang Kai reach out, Liang Yong pushed his Saint Chi violently to resist. How could he have known that just as he moved, the surrounding space would suddenly solidify and a violent pressure would press down on him from all directions, making it difficult for him to even move. With a loud crackling sound, tiny void cracks visible to the naked eye began swimming around Liang Yong like fish. Liang Yong was so frightened that he didn't dare to move, for fear that he would be swallowed by these void cracks. In a flash, his space ring fell into Yang Kai's hand, causing Liang Yong's face to suddenly turn pale. Grabbing Liang Yong's space ring, Yang Kai sneered softly, sweeping the contents of the ring with his divine sense, his face gradually becoming gloomy. Immediately, Yang Kai waved his hand and a series of clattering sounds rang out. In front of the city lord's mansion, a small mountain of high-rank Saint crystals immediately appeared. The onlookers stared at this huge number of Saint crystals and couldn't help gulping as a burst of exclamations rang out. When had they ever seen such a large amount of wealth? Although no one knew exactly how many Saint crystals there were at least hundreds of millions of them, and if one could obtain them, they wouldn't need to worry about cultivation for several lifetimes. In addition to Saint crystals, there were also various boxes. Yang Kai didn't know what was inside these boxes, but the boxes themselves were carved out of valuable materials, so it wasn't hard to imagine what was inside. Where did you get so many good things? Yang Kai looked at Liang Yong with a dark expression. Give me a reasonable explanation, and I won't kill you. Liang Yong's face turned ashen. He had no way to explain himself. The evidence was right in front of them. If Yang Kai hadn't plundered the wealth of the 9 cities under Heaven Battling City, how could he have amassed such a huge fortune by himself? No one had the ability to do that. Sect Master, please spare my life. Sect Master, please spare my life. Subordinate knows his wrongs and asks Sect Master to give Subordinate a chance to redeem himself. Subordinate will definitely not disappoint Sect Master, Liang Yong shouted. Yang Kai slowly shook his head. Everything can be done once, twice, but not thrice. Liang Yong, this sect master spared your life in Fallen Emperor Mountain and didn't take your life in Heaven Battling City because you were still a useful person, but now, you can rest in peace. As soon as his voice fell, Yang Kai stretched out his hand towards Liang Yong. Liang Yong seemed to want to dodge, but for some reason he couldn't and had his head grabbed by Yang Kai. Pushing his Saint Chi fiercely, Liang Yong screamed as a series of violent bursts rang out from his body. Along with this sound, Liang Yong's vitality rapidly disappeared. By the time Yang Kai withdrew his hand, Liang Yong had lost all vitality and collapsed to the ground, dark red blood flowing from his 7 orifices. Everyone was silent as they stared towards Yang Kai with complicated looks. Many of them knew Liang Yong's strength well. He was a peak 3rd order origin returning realm cultivator, and even if he wasn't as strong as the late Heaven Battling Union's Union Master, He wasn't too far off. But such a master had been crushed to death by Yang Kai with a single hand. It wasn't any different from crushing an ant. Although most people had long heard that Yang Kai's strength was extraordinary, in the end, those were just rumors. Only after seeing it with their own eyes did they realize that the rumors were true and that his strength was even more terrifying than the rumors said. Dan Ing was dumbfounded and fell to the ground, his eyes glazed over. He had pinned all his hopes on Liang Yong, thinking that City Lord Liang would stand up for him and teach Yang Kai a lesson. But the development of the situation made him tremble in fear. First, Liang Yong addressed this young man as sect master, allowing Dan Ing to vaguely guess his true identity, and then Liang Yong, who he regarded as his pillar of support, was crushed to death. Dan Ing had always regarded High Heaven sect as his backer, a fox exploiting the tiger's might, but how could he have known that he would inadvertently offend the sect master of this backer? How could he survive now? He saw Kai Yang's gaze sweep over him, but it didn't linger, as if he was completely ignoring his existence. It was as if he wasn't a threat to Kai Yang at all. "Ha, I don't know how many of you are related to this matter, but don't be too nervous. Liang Yong is dead, and this sect master doesn't want to kill anymore, so this matter will end here. If you want to live, you should know what to do." Yang Kai looked at the cultivator who had followed Liang Yong. Most of these people were originally cultivators of Heaven Battling Union, but some were later recruited by Liang Yong, all of them origin returning realm masters. "Subordinates thank sect master for not killing us." Everyone responded in unison, immediately turning around and glaring at Dan Ing. "No!" Dan Ing shouted in horror. But it was too late. These people swarmed over and directly drowned Dan Ing, bombarding him with various secret techniques and artifacts, killing him on the spot. "Shao Qi, take care of this matter and report back to me as soon as possible." Yang Kai looked at Gu Qi and ordered. "Yes." "Where is Blue Wave City's Vice City Lord?" Yang Kai looked forward again. "Subordinate is here." A wretched-looking old man hurriedly walked out, his legs still shaking as he bowed to Yang Kai. "Good, take me to Blue Wave City's storehouse." "Sect Master, this way please." The old man did not dare to neglect and quickly led the way. A moment later, Yang Kai stood in Blue Wave City's storehouse, looking at the dazzling array of materials and a large number of saint crystals, clicking his tongue constantly. The so-called wealth of the people was probably referring to these things. "Empty the storehouse and hand everything to Gu Qi, he should know what to do with it," Yang Kai ordered before turning around and leaving. The old man bowed respectfully behind him. 3 days later, in the city lord's mansion, Yang Kai sat in a chair, listening to Gu Qi's report. Sect Master, Liang Yong, Dan Ying's space rings and everything in Blue Wave City storehouse has been dispersed. Subordinate asked the cultivator in Blue Wave City to report the amount of saint crystals he had paid and after verification, returned everything, informing them that what happened here was not instructed by my High Heaven sect but was instead Dan Ying's own initiative. Everyone who heard this news applauded and praised Sect Master's great kindness. Enough flattery. Yang Kai shot him a disdainful glance. He didn't know why, but the more he looked at Gu Qi, the more he felt this guy was wretched. He couldn't help wondering how Yi Shiyun had adopted this guy in the first place. Gu Qi smiled awkwardly. Liang Yong is dead, so Heaven Battling City is now leaderless. You'll have to work hard for a while and stay there. If you can cultivate a capable and reliable person, you can let him take over the position of City Lord. At that time, you can return to the sect and no longer have to worry about these trivial matters. Yes, that's what I plan to do, Gu Qi nodded. What about the other cities under the jurisdiction of Heaven Battling City? Is the situation the same as here? Yang Kai asked again. It's not quite the same, the severity of the situation varies. Some are more serious, some are fine, but the most serious one is Blue Wave City. Good, that's good. In any case, how to deal with it is up to you. Sect Master, don't worry. Little Seven won't do those outrageous things. By the way, Sect Master, I have sent news of your return back to the sect. Great Elder wants to know how you're doing now. I'm doing very well. Tell her I'll be back soon so she doesn't need to worry. Yes, Gu Qi nodded, There is one more thing I need to tell Sect Master. Speak. Outside the City Lord's mansion, there are a few people who have been asking to see you, saying they know you. Gucci looked at Yang Kai with a strange expression. Yang Kai pondered for a moment and immediately knew who wanted to see him, nodded, and said, "Let them in." Gucci took the order and left. A short while later, an old man led a few young people in. Yang Kai got up and greeted them with a smile. This old man greets Sect Master Yang. The old man quickly saluted. Old sir need not be so polite. Yang Kai chuckled as his eyes swept behind the old man and landed on the green-clothed girl who was staring at him with a pair of big eyes, her face filled with curiosity. "What are you all standing around for? Hurry up and salute, show some respect," the old man scolded. Yang Kai waved his hand. "No need, this is fine." The old man smiled bitterly. "Sect Master Yang, please don't take offense. These young people have not seen much of the world. If they have offended you in any way, please forgive them. And this old man came here to thank Sect Master Yang for upholding justice for all the Blue Wave City abbots and avenging the death of my family's fourth brother. I hope Sect Master Yang can accept this old man's bow. Old sir need not be so polite. If we really want to talk about what happened here, my High Heaven Sect also has some responsibility. If it weren't for High Heaven Sect's negligence, you would not have ended up like this. Fortunately, this matter was discovered not too late, so I hope it can be made up for in the future. It is an honor for us to live in Blue Wave City and be governed by High Heaven Sect, the old man said solemnly. Yang Kai gently nodded and grinned at the green-clothed girl. "What are you looking at me for? Don't you recognize me?" The green-clothed girl blushed and stammered. "Are you really High Heaven Sect's Sect Master? You're not lying?" Chapter 1541. Thea. The old man was taken aback and quickly glared at her. The girl couldn't help pursing her lips. Yang Kai chuckled and nodded. I am High Heaven Sect's Sect Master. There's no need to pretend, right? I was just asking." The girl stuck out her tongue and suddenly seemed to make a great decision, biting her red lips and saying, "You are High Heaven Sect's Sect Master, so your words should be very useful, right?" "They should be useful. Then can you accept me into High Heaven Sect?" As soon as the statement came out, the old man was shocked and quickly apologized. He knew that High Heaven Sect never accepted anyone. A master like Liang Yong was only the City Lord of Heaven Battling City and had not really become a member of High Heaven Sect. His father was just a Saint Realm cultivator, so how could she join such a sect? Although he was apologizing in fear, the old man still had some expectations. If Faye could really join High Heaven Sect, her future would be limitless. Currently, on Shadowed Star, High Heaven Sect was the dominant force, and no other sect could compete with it. How could one enter such a sect be lacking? Yang Kai stopped the old man's chatter and looked at the girl calmly. "Do you want to join High Heaven Sect?" The girl nodded. "But," Yang Kai asked. "It's cool under a big tree." The girl replied immediately without thinking. The old man's face twitched as he listened to this. Yang Kai was also stunned for a moment before bursting into laughter. "If I become a disciple of High Heaven Sect, no one will dare bully my family's disciples in the future," the girl added with a blush. Yang Kai smiled even more happily. "Good, although you have some selfish motives, you are also a straightforward person. Since you want to enter High Heaven Sect so much, this sect master will accept you." The girl's expression froze, seemingly not having expected happiness to come so suddenly. She thought she would definitely be rejected and had mentally prepared herself. "Stupid girl, quickly thank Sect Master for his kindness." The old man quickly signaled to the side. Only then did the young girl come back to her senses. She hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed. The several young people who came with her all looked at her enviously. "All right, get up. I'll give you 1 day to deal with your family affairs. After 1 day, I'll return to the sect. You'll come with me then." Yang Kai waved his hand. "Yes." The young girl bit her red lips, her face flushed red as she excitedly replied. There was no need for Yang Kai to worry about Blue Wave City, and Heaven Battling City didn't need him to deal with it. A day later, Yang Kai took the green-robed girl through Blue Wave City's space array, directly to Heaven Battling City, and from there, to Demon Blood City. The current Demon Blood City had already been renamed to Firmament City. It was the bridge between High Heaven Sect, which lived in the Lu Yen Desert, and the outside world, and a city directly under High Heaven Sect's jurisdiction. A few years ago, during the trip to the Emperor Garden, Demon Blood Temple's Great Elder and the beautiful Temple Master had both died at the hands of Yang Kai. As a result, Demon Blood Temple's internal strife continued, resulting in countless casualties among its elders. After a few years, this sect had nearly collapsed. Seeing this situation, Yi Shiyun took her people to occupy Demon Blood City, the closest city to the sect, and renamed it Firmament City. Not to mention that Demon Blood Temple was now in decline and did not dare to resist, even when Demon Blood Temple was at its peak, with High Heaven Sect's strength. If they wanted to occupy Demon Blood City, Demon Blood Temple would not have dared to resist. Demon Blood City was so easily obtained and became High Heaven Sect's property. All supplies and cultivator traffic were transferred through Firmament City. Although today's High Heaven Sect was still located inside the Lu Yen Desert, its communication with the outside world was much more convenient. As soon as he appeared on the space array, Yang Kai heard a thunderous roar in his ears. Subordinate welcomes Sect Master back to the sect. The orderly voices frightened Lu Fei, causing the green-robed girl to hurriedly hide behind Yang Kai. Yang Kai swept his eyes around and found that almost all of High Heaven Sect's elders were here, led by Great Elder Yi Shiyun. Obviously, they had heard the news and were waiting here. Seeing that Yang Kai was not missing an arm or a leg, Yi Shiyun could not help breathing a sigh of relief. After the Battle of Ling Terminating Peak, Yang Kai, Chi Tianche, and Fong Peng suddenly disappeared for 3 years. All of High Heaven Sect had been worried about Yang Kai and had been inquiring about him everywhere, but unfortunately, nothing had been found. It was as if Yang Kai had simply disappeared from this cultivation star. Now that he had finally returned safely, Yi Shiyun was naturally happy. At first glance, her beautiful eyes could not help narrowing as she discovered that Yang Kai's cultivation had actually reached the second-order origin returning realm. Even Yi Shiyun, who had experienced countless storms and waves, could not help being shocked by this discovery. In just a few years, he had actually taken another step forward in the origin returning realm. Wasn't Sect Master's cultivation speed a bit too exaggerated? Great Elder has worked hard. Yang Kai gently nodded to Yi Shiyun. Everyone has also worked hard. Sect Master, you're being too serious. There's nothing for us to work hard for. Instead, it's the Sect Master who has been tired these past few years. Thank you, Sect Master. Yi Shiyun smiled as her beautiful eyes swept over Lu Fei, before shooting a curious glance towards Yang Kai, wondering why he had brought a Saint King Realm girl with him. This girl wanted to join High Heaven Sect, so this Sect Master decided to accept her, Yang Kai explained casually. So that's how it is, Yi Shiyun nodded. Come, don't hide, greet the elders first. Yang Kai pulled Lu Fei out from behind him. Lu Fei's face flushed red as she swept her eyes over the faces of everyone present, a look of worship and reverence filling her beautiful eyes. These people were the strongest masters from the strongest sect on Shadowed Star. Any one of these people could easily cause Shadowed Star to tremble with a single stomp of their feet. Lu Fei had never seen such a grand spectacle before. After calming her mind, Lu Fei hurriedly bowed. There's no need to be so polite. Since Sect Master has accepted you, you will be a disciple of my High Heaven Sect from now on. Cultivate well in the sect, and if your performance is good enough, you may be able to become a disciple of these people in front of you. Yi Shiyun looked at her kindly. Yes. Lu Fei nodded excitedly. Let's go back first, Yang Kai gestured. Half a day later, in the conference hall of High Heaven Sect's headquarters, the elders gathered to report to Yang Kai the situation of High Heaven Sect over the past 3 years. The best way to describe it was by leaps and bounds. Without mentioning anything else, with the addition of more than 200 cultivators from Star Emperor Mountain, High Heaven Sect's overall strength had leapt to become the #1 sect on Shadowed Star. This was indisputable as no other sect could compare to the current High Heaven sect. In addition, with Heaven Battling City taking the lead, the various cities under its jurisdiction also received a large amount of income every year. Today, High Heaven sect no longer needed to worry about cultivation materials. There weren't many people to begin with, but supplies were constantly being transported in from all directions. Now, High Heaven sect had 3 large warehouses, each of which was filled to the brim, but it still wasn't enough, so Yi Shiyun planned to open up more. On top of that, Clear Sky sect and Shadow Moon Hall were allies. These two forces had always had a good relationship with Yang Kai, and in the 3 years that Yang Kai had been missing, both forces had provided great help to the development of High Heaven sect, so Yi Shiyun had decided to form an alliance with these two sects. Under such a strong alliance, they could mutually benefit each other. There were countless forces that wanted to ally with High Heaven sect, but none of them had a way to do so, so they could only covet the opportunities of Shadow Moon Hall and Clear Sky sect. Yang Kai listened for a long time before nodding with satisfaction. Today's High Heaven sect's development was on the right track. When he founded the sect, he had never imagined that it would reach its current scale. Back then, he had only brought Wu Yi and the others here on a starship to settle down. It could be said that the destruction of Heaven Battling Union, Thunder Typhoon sect, and Star Emperor Mountain had provided unimaginable help to the rapid rise of High Heaven sect. Without the destruction of these 3 forces, there would be no High Heaven sect today. They had all become stepping stones to High Heaven City's fame. Half a day later, the elders dispersed, leaving only Yang Kai with Yi Shiyun. Great Elder also knew that Yang Kai must have something else to ask, so before Yang Kai could speak, Great Elder took the initiative to say, "If Sect Master wishes to ask about Master situation, subordinate can only say that everything is the same as before." "Everything is the same as before," Yang Kai murmured. Sect Master does not need to worry. Since Master said that he would sleep for 10 or 20 years, we only need to wait patiently. Yang Kai nodded, not asking any more questions. In addition, Sect Master's artifact spirit is now recuperating in the 5th layer's Earth Lung Fire Vein. Subordinate has also brought back the green sword and placed it in Sect Master's first heavenly palace. I understand. In fact, there was no need for Yi Shiyun to say anything. As soon as Yang Kai returned to the Lu Yen Desert, he sensed the location of his 2 great helpers. After all, whether it was the Firebird or the Dragon Bone Sword, they were both connected to his soul. When he was dragged into the mysterious small world by Chi Tianche with the sealed world bead, the verdant Dragon Bone Sword was still outside. Later, during the battle, the Firebird artifact spirit was also banished, leaving only the stone mongoose with Yang Kai. Naturally, Yi Shiyun would bring them back. Back then, what happened? Why did Sect Master suddenly disappear? Is it related to that Emperor artifact? Yi Shiyun pondered for a moment before asking solemnly. She only knew that the sealed world bead was an Emperor artifact, but she did not know what kind of power it possessed. For generations on Star Emperor Mountain, no one had ever been able to refine it, so Yi Shiyun had no clue about its power. I was dragged into a mysterious small world by Chi Tianche, Yang Kai replied. A mysterious small world. Yi Shiyun's eyes shrank. Fortunately, after spending 3 years inside, I was finally able to escape, so Great Elder doesn't need to worry too much. Seeing that he had no intention of talking more, Yi Shiyun naturally did not ask any more questions. After thinking about it for a moment, she suddenly took out an item and handed it to Yang Kai. Master sent me a message while he was asleep and asked me to give this to you. He said he wanted you to take good care of it. Star Emperor token. Yang Kai looked at the thing Yi Shiyun handed over and shouted. Reaching out and taking it, Yang Kai gently stroked the Star Emperor token as a dignified look appeared on his face. He now had 4 of these tokens. The first was given to him by Gui Zhu and contained the divine technique of the great emperors. The second was found in the loft on the 6th floor of Lu Yan's sand field. The third was brought to him by Gu Qi, and the fourth was the one in front of him. Chapter 1542. Yang Yun had said before that the great emperors had produced a total of 10 Star Emperor tokens, each of which was sealed with a divine technique belonging to the great emperors. Now that she wanted him to take good care of them, could there be some kind of secret hidden in these Star Emperor tokens? However, no matter what it was, he would need to collect all 10 of them to reveal it. Of course, collecting 10 was easier said than done. It had been many years since Yang Kai entered Star territory, and through various opportunities and coincidences, he only had 4 Star Emperor tokens. As for the remaining 6, who knew where they were? The only thing Yang Kai knew was that Heng Luo Chamber of Commerce had a Star Emperor token on Water Moon Star, something he had inadvertently learned while chatting with Shuiyu. Yang Kai didn't think too much about it though, and after carefully putting away the 4th Star Emperor token, he asked Yi Shiyun to send a message to Qian Tong, Fei Ji2, and Clear Sky Sect, informing them that the time had come before leaving the hall. 3 years ago, Yang Kai had been planning a voyage. If not for the previous incident, he would likely have already entered Star territory by now. Because of the provocation from Star Emperor Mountain, Yang Kai had no choice but to delay his plans. Now that he had escaped, it was time to set sail and find a way home, where he didn't know where his beloved had fallen in Star territory. On the way to First Heavenly Palace, Yang Kai's eyes flashed with Su Yan's face and his eyes softened. Back on Tong Xian realm, more than 20 years had passed. Over the past 20 years, through many ups and downs, Yang Kai's cultivation had climbed from the Saint realm to the Origin Returning realm, more than 100 times stronger than when he had rushed into Star territory without hesitation. However, there was no such thing as a peak in the martial Dao, and the higher his cultivation, the more Yang Kai found his shortcomings. He desperately wanted to become stronger, to climb to the peak of the martial Dao, to stand atop it and overlook all living beings. Suddenly, cheers and shouts rang out in his ears, pulling Kai Yang out of his reverie. Turning his head, he saw a group of people gathered together. He didn't know what they were doing, but it seemed to be very lively. These people were all disciples of the Haiku family who had left the family with Wu and followed Yang Kai. Although their cultivations were not at the same level back then, over the years, with the help of various cultivation resources and a good cultivation environment, all of them had advanced by leaps and bounds. Most of them had already reached the Saint King realm. Yu Feng and Wu Yi were only one step away from breaking through to the Origin Returning realm. Cultivating in High Heaven Sect, as long as one's aptitude wasn't too bad, there was no need to worry about breaking through. There were all kinds of pills to assist one's cultivation, the 10,000-year incense from Ascending Dragon Palace to dispel heart demons, and the 9-branched jade crystal tree to help a cultivator comprehend the heavenly way and martial Dao. Every cultivator did not feel any difficulty when they broke through. Everything happened naturally. At this moment, more than 20 people had gathered together and were shouting at the center of the field. There seemed to be 2 people sparring with each other as the sound of fists and feet colliding could be heard. It was a good thing for disciples to improve their strength and examine their own shortcomings through exchanging pointers. Yang Kai smiled lightly, not intending to join in the fun, but when his eyes inadvertently caught sight of a figure in the middle of exchanging pointers, he couldn't help letting out a light sigh and quickly walked over. Everyone's attention was attracted by the battle in the field, so Yang Kai's arrival did not alarm anyone. At the center of the field, there were indeed 2 people sparring, but unlike what Yang Kai had imagined, they were not competing with secret techniques or artifacts, nor were they competing with Saint Chi. Instead, they were simply competing in terms of strength and reflexes. One of them looked familiar to Yang Kai, but he couldn't name him. He was a burly man with a strong body and bulging muscles. At first glance, it was obvious he was a man who possessed great brute strength. His cultivation was also not bad, a first-order Saint King. What caught Yang Kai's attention was this burly man's opponent. It turned out to be a little girl. She looked to be only 10 years old, but her petite body was as agile as an ape, and her movements were extremely fast as she flew around the burly man. The little girl's hair was still a bit light yellow, and she had tied it up casually with 2 strands of hair that hung over her shoulders. Her facial features were delicate and pretty, giving her a very cute appearance. As she flew about, her hair fluttered just like her. Although she was young, she was already a beauty. While dodging the burly man's attacks, She would often find an opportunity to throw out her small fists and land a few punches on the burly man's body. These seemingly light punches actually contained astonishing power. Even with the burly man's physique, being hit by these punches caused him to tremble violently, causing him to grimace in pain. Yang Kai found that both of the burly man's eyes were bruised, obviously because he had been hit by the little girl. The burly man didn't seem to show the slightest mercy as he threw out punch after punch, the sound of his punches causing Yang Kai to feel a little nervous, fearing that the little girl wouldn't be able to withstand his blows and would be smashed to pieces. However, his worries were superfluous as none of the onlookers showed any concern for this little girl. Instead, everyone was shouting and cheering, some making fun of the burly man's strength while others cheering for the little girl, creating a lively scene. Lin Yun. Yang Kai suddenly recognized the little girl's identity. She was the little girl Yang Kai had brought back from Seaside City. She was the one adopted by Huang Wan. When Yang Kai brought her back, the little girl was only 7 or 8 years old. Now that 3 years had passed, she was about the same age. Yang Kai had long known that Lin Yun's small body could erupt with great strength, but after seeing her today, he realized that he had underestimated her potential. At just 10 years old, she had already surpassed the burly First-Order St. King Realm man in terms of pure strength, perhaps even a little, otherwise her opponent wouldn't have fallen into such a disadvantage. What kind of freak is this? Yang Kai couldn't help marveling. Just as he was looking at Lin Yun with great interest, the little girl's figure flickered and she suddenly slipped under the burly man's crotch, leapt up high, and delivered a beautiful uppercut to the burly man's chin, sending him flying. Ping. The burly man fell to the ground, his face red, and struggled for a while before getting up. The onlookers burst into laughter, with Yu Feng laughing the most heartily. After defeating her opponent, Lin Yun seemed to be very happy, jumping up and down excitedly, shouting and yelling. Yang Kai stared at her, a pensive look on his face. If it was a real life or death struggle, the little girl would definitely not be the burly man's opponent. After all, the gap between their cultivations was too great, but in terms of physical flexibility and strength, the little girl had an absolute advantage. She was only 10 years old and had infinite potential. If she could be taught according to her aptitude, her future achievements would be limitless. Interesting, really interesting. Kai Yang's interest was piqued. Hey, you're that uncle. Lin Yun suddenly discovered Yang Kai and pointed her finger at him. Yang Kai's face went black. Ah, it's Sect Master. Yu Feng turned his head and exclaimed, quickly covering his eyes with his hands, as if he was trying to hide something, his eyes darting around. Yang Kai glanced around and found that most of the people gathered here had dark circles under their eyes and ashamed looks on their faces. They've all been knocked out? Kai Yang asked curiously. Ha! Yu Feng was so embarrassed that he wished he could find a hole to crawl into. He was now a third-order Saint King, only one step away from breaking through to the origin returning realm, but in the competition with Lin Yun, he had still accidentally taken a punch from her, resulting in his current state. This was the greatest shame of his life. How disgraceful. Yang Kai spat disdainfully before beckoning to Lin Yun. Yun, come here. The little girl was very obedient and quickly walked over to Yang Kai, thought about it for a moment, then said in a crisp voice, Disciple Lin Yun greets Sect Master. Uncle. Yang Kai nodded, showing a harmless smile. You don't need to say the last 2 words next time. The little girl nodded. Yi Shiyun's teachings are quite good. Yang Kai looked at the little girl with satisfaction. After bringing her back, Yang Kai had asked Yi Shiyun to teach her, and now she was so mature, obviously it was Yi Shiyun's credit. Do you like it here? Yang Kai asked happily. I like it. Lin Yun replied immediately. There's food here, no one bullies Yun, Auntie Yi and the other uncles are very good to Yun. Good, Yang Kai grinned. Did your Auntie Yi find a master for you? Lin Yun slowly shook her head. Why? Yang Kai was stunned. Although Lin Yun was young, she was obviously a rare genius. Yang Kai found it hard to imagine that Star Emperor Mountain's masters would not fight to the death for such a person. Although they were strict about accepting disciples, Lin Yun definitely met the requirements, so no one had accepted her as a disciple. This was a bit strange. Auntie Yi said that they have no one to teach me, Lin Yun replied clearly. Tilting her little head, she said happily, Yun is now cultivating with Auntie Yi, so there's no need for her to worship any other master. Your Auntie Yi's strength is outstanding, so if you cultivate well with her, you'll benefit greatly. Good, you may continue. Yang Kai waved his hand, turned around and left. Behind him came a respectful greeting, but Kai Yang fell into deep thought. Yi Shiyun actually said that no one could teach Lin Yun, which was a bit strange. Although there were only about 200 cultivators on Star Emperor Mountain, each of them had their own territory they were proficient in, so it should not be a problem to find one of these elites to teach Lin Yun. Since Yi Shiyun said so, there was only one possibility. She was very optimistic about Lin Yun, and did not want her to act carelessly, so she probably wanted to teach Lin Yun the best. Yang Kai would have to ask Yi Shiyun about this matter. He was really curious as to why this little girl possessed such amazing strength at such a young age. Presumably, Yi Shiyun had been with her for 3 years and should have some understanding of her strength. With his mind drifting, Yang Kai returned to First Heavenly Palace. Just as he stepped into the palace, a low and deep dragon roar vaguely sounded from the depths of the palace. Immediately, a green light shot over from that direction. Yang Kai grinned, stretched out his hand, and grasped the green light in the palm of his hand. When the light dissipated, it was revealed to be a bladeless green sword. Dragon Bone Sword, Verdant. A sense of connection and bloodline fusion arose spontaneously, and the green dragon remnant soul swimming around the sword seemed to become happier. After 3 years, the aura of the Dragon Bone Sword seemed to have become stronger. After all, in the battle 3 years ago, Yang Kai had killed a lot of people and the Dragon Bone Sword had devoured a lot of their flesh and blood essence. 3 years of accumulation had indeed caused some changes. After carefully examining it and confirming that he was not mistaken, Yang Kai happily put away the Dragon Bone Sword. Chapter 1543. Looking around, Yang Kai saw that everything in First Heavenly Palace was the same as before. Although Yang Kai had been missing for 3 years, no one dared to disturb this place as it was the resting place of High Heaven Sect's sect master. Yi Shiyun simply ordered people to clean this place up every day to prevent any dust from reaching it. After looking around for a moment, Yang Kai nodded secretly and was about to take a rest when his expression suddenly changed and he shouted, "Who is it?" Saying so, Yang Kai released his spiritual energy towards a certain spot in the void. At this moment he suddenly felt like he was being spied on. He did not show the slightest mercy. The void distorted as Yang Kai's massive spiritual energy attack was something even a third-order origin returning realm master could not withstand. However, the distorted space stabilized in the next moment, as if an invisible hand had flattened it. Yang Kai's attack did not have any effect. This discovery made his expression change as his eyes flashed. An inexplicable mass of energy visible to the naked eye suddenly appeared, twisting and changing mysteriously. Divine sense manifestation. Yang Kai muttered, feeling shocked but also lowering his vigilance because he felt a sense of familiarity from this spiritual energy visible to the naked eye. As soon as his voice fell, the divine sense force suddenly transformed into a human figure. Although it was somewhat erratic, this figure wore a black robe that almost covered her entire face, revealing only a pair of eyes that shone like stars and a graceful figure. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed as he stared straight at this figure, his mood fluctuating. The other party also stared back at him motionlessly, her expression as calm as an ancient well, making it impossible to tell whether she was happy, angry, or sad. After a while, Yang Kai took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice, "Are you Young Inflammation, or one of the great emperors?" This figure formed from Yang Kai's divine sense was exactly the same as Yang Yen. She was clearly the spiritual thought of the person sleeping on the 6th floor of the Lu Yen Sandground. However, Yang Kai was not sure whether she was the Young Inflammation who had been with him day and night, or the legendary great emperors of the Star Field. If it was the former, everything would be fine. If it was the latter, Yang Kai would have to be careful. Hearing Yang Kai's question, the figure frowned and said, "Both?" "Is that so?" Yang Kai replied faintly. "It seems that you have already begun to fuse." "That's right, but it'll take a few more years for it to be completed." "Then how should I address you?" "Whether it is the person you know or the great emperors you speak of, they are all called Yang Inflammation," the figure replied. Yang Kai gently nodded. "Then why aren't you sleeping in the attic? Why did you place your spiritual sense here?" "I sense that you brought back something interesting, so I came over to take a look." Yang Inflammation smiled faintly. "Something interesting?" Yang Kai's brows furrowed. "This," Yang Inflammation said as she reached out to Yang Kai. Her movements seemed extremely casual, but when she made this move, Yang Kai suddenly felt as if something had been summoned from his body. The speed was so fast that he didn't even have time to think about resisting. With a flash of light, a bead appeared in Yang Inflammation's hand. Sealed World Bead. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed as he stared blankly at the seemingly inconspicuous bead. "That's right, the Sealed World Bead." Yang Inflammation gently nodded and closed her beautiful eyes as if sensing something. A moment later, she opened her eyes and whispered, "Sure enough, you really can refine it." Yang Kai was proficient in the Tao of space. This was something that Yang Inflammation knew. The most basic requirement for refining the Sealed World Bead was to understand the Tao of space, so for the past tens of thousands of years on Star Emperor Mountain, no sect master had been able to refine it until Qi Tianche's generation coincidentally discovered the mysteries of the Sealed World Bead. In the end, it was Yang Kai who benefited. You even managed to open up a 100-kilometer radius space. With your current cultivation, this is truly amazing. Yang Yen seemed to have discovered something that surprised her and couldn't help exclaiming in admiration. Yang Kai frowned and pondered for a moment before saying, "I know that this bead belongs to you. At that time, I refined it in order to leave this place. If you want to take it back, I won't stop you. But can you lend it to me for a while? I need it to carry some people." "Lend it to you?" Yang Inflammation glanced at Yang Kai and pursed her lips into a smile. "Why should I lend it to you? You left your mark on the Sealed World Bead, so it already belongs to you. I won't take it back." Saying so, Yang Inflammation stretched out her hand and tossed the Sealed World Bead back. Yang Kai caught it and looked at her suspiciously. Although he hadn't figured out what grade of artifact the Sealed World Bead was, since it was an Emperor artifact, it was obviously of great use to existences like the Great Emperors. Yang Kai didn't expect to take the Sealed World Bead for himself, he just wanted to use it to bring his friends and family from Tong Xian Realm. Without the Sealed World Bead, he really couldn't bring so many people here at once. "You're mistaken about one thing," Yang Inflammation said softly. "What?" "I don't own this Sealed World Bead." Yang Kai was stunned. "Strictly speaking, I've never refined this Sealed World Bead, I'm just keeping it safe." Yang Inflammation's soul avatar floated down from the void and stood in front of Yang Kai like a real person. "It actually belongs to a friend of mine." "Your friend?" Yang Kai was shocked. Yang Inflammation's avatar was one of the great emperors of Star Field, so a friend of the great emperors. Didn't that mean he was also in existence on par with the great emperors? "And a friend of mine," Yang Inflammation nodded. "My friend and you share the same surname. Can you guess what it is?" Yang Kai fell into contemplation before his eyes suddenly lit up and he whispered, "He cultivates the Tao of space?" Yang Inflammation looked at Yang Kai approvingly. "Like you, he also cultivates the Tao of space, but his mastery of the Tao of space has reached great heights. This Sealed World Bead was formed by him using his mastery of space principles to refine an interface. Although my strength is not inferior to his, I don't have much attainments in the Tao of space, so the Sealed World Bead is of little use to me, and I can't fully expand the space inside the Sealed World Bead. You are different. You have a deep understanding of the Tao of space, so perhaps one day you will have the opportunity to reach his level." Yang Kai's face twitched. It wasn't because of Yang Inflammation's high evaluation of him, but because of the origin of the Sealed World Bead. It was actually formed by a cultivator on the same level as the great emperors by refining an interface. This was too sensational. Yang Kai had never seen an Origin King Realm Master take action, but according to his estimation, an Origin King definitely did not have such ability. The great emperors really were existences beyond the Origin King realm. Above the Origin King realm, there really was a higher realm. The martial Tao really had no limit. You and Yang Inflammation met before, so we can be considered to have been brought together by fate. Since you have branded the sealed world bead with your life mark, it is now yours. Expand it well, perhaps one day you will discover something from it. Yang Inflammation pursed his lips and smiled mysteriously. Yang Kai's brow rose as his eyes flashed. There was a hidden meaning in Yang Inflammation's words. Could it be that there were some mysteries hidden inside the sealed world bead? Yang Kai didn't ask any more questions as he knew that even if he asked now, he probably wouldn't get any answers. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Your friend, I don't know where he is. I haven't seen him for more than 100,000 years. Perhaps he is wandering around, becoming one of the many living beings in this world, or perhaps he has already fallen. Who knows?" Understood, Yang Kai nodded. Expanding the space inside the sealed world bead was of great benefit to his cultivation of the Tao of space. Even if Yang Inflammation hadn't spoken today, Yang Kai would not have slacked off. Now that he vaguely knew that there was more to the sealed world bead, Yang Kai would spare no effort. Right, I'll be going on a voyage in a few days. You should be safe sleeping in that loft. I'll have someone look after you carefully. Yang Kai suddenly remembered something. Yang Inflammation opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but eventually decided against it and simply said lightly, "There are many dangers in the star's territory. I hope you have a safe trip." After saying so, her figure suddenly disappeared. Just like how she had suddenly arrived, she had also suddenly left. Yang Kai frowned and stood in place for a while before calming himself down and sitting cross-legged on his bed to meditate. The next day, inside 100 Flowers Peak, Yang Kai found Yi Shiyun and asked her about Lin Yun's situation. After 3 years of getting along, Yi Shiyun had indeed studied Lin Yun's body and vaguely learned some things. Yun has a special constitution. Sure enough, Yang Kai nodded, as if he had already expected this. There were always some special people in this world who were born with advantages that others could only dream of, and these advantages were reflected in their bodies. For example, little senior sister Xia Ningchang had the sacred spirit medicine body. She was born proficient in alchemy and did not need to study it at all. Alchemy was a form of cultivation, and the more pills she refined, the higher her strength would become. Shan Qing Luo had the Poison Widow constitution, which was extremely poisonous and could kill anyone who came into contact with it. Shui Yu had the Dragon Marrow Phoenix body, which allowed her primordial Yin Qi to greatly increase one's strength without any hidden dangers. These special constitutions each had their own advantages, but they were extremely rare and rarely seen by ordinary people. For Lin Yun to possess such incredible power at such a young age, Yang Kai could only think of one explanation. She had a special constitution. Now, the answer he got from Yi Shiyun happened to coincide with his conjecture. Then what kind of constitution does she have? Yang Kai turned his head and glanced at the little girl who was sitting nearby, nibbling on a fruit, and hurriedly asked. This queen has read a lot of ancient books about this, and if this queen is not mistaken, she should have the tyrant strength body. Yi Shiyun quickly said, "Tyrant strength body." Yang Kai raised his brow. People with this kind of constitution are born with divine strength, and as they grow older and their cultivation increases, their strength will only increase. They are heaven's favored children, and when they grow to a certain extent, they will be able to compete with a cultivator of the same realm with their physical strength alone and gain the absolute upper hand. Yang Kai's eyes flashed a look of amazement. But Yi Shiyun suddenly frowned as she looked at Lin Yun worriedly. But what? Yang Kai raised his head and looked at her. But because the strength of people with this kind of constitution is too great, to the point where they are unable to bear it, they are often unable to exert their full strength in battle. Yun is still young and her cultivation is not high, so this disadvantage is not obvious yet, but when she really grows up, this strength will become a hindrance to her. Chapter 1544. Everything was fair. The Creator had always been fair. Although people with special constitutions had advantages in certain territory, most of them had shortcomings that could not be ignored. Xia Ningchang's sacred spirit medicine body allowed her to perform alchemy easily and enhance her strength in the process. However, she could only use this method to improve her strength. Meditating like an ordinary person was far too inefficient for her. Shan Qing Luo's poison widow body often caused her to lose her loved ones and live a life of loneliness. What's more, this regret was created by her own hands as she cruelly killed her loved ones on their wedding night. This was an unimaginable torture for anyone. Although Shui Yu's dragon marrow phoenix body was tyrannical, it was nothing more than a wedding dress for others. The same was true for Lin Yun's tyrant strength body. The powerful strength she possessed would eventually become too much for Lin Yun to bear. Once she used more strength than her body could bear, the final result would be her own death. Is there no solution? Yang Kai asked with some concern. There is. Yi Shiyun gently nodded. Oh, let's hear it. Since there is a solution, we just need to follow it. Yang Kai's eyes lit up. Lin Yun was still young and had unlimited potential. He did not want such a little girl to worry about her own strength in the future, or even die because of it. It's simple to say, but... Yi Shiyun smiled bitterly. The drawbacks of Yun-er's physique are obvious. As long as we target these drawbacks and temper her body, she will be fine. In other words, as long as her physical strength can support her strength, she will not be in any danger. But if she wants to temper her body, she must have a corresponding physique. Too low a level is not enough. Body tempering? Yang Kai's expression became strange. Yes, although Star Emperor Mountain also has a body tempering method, that kind of thing cannot meet Yun-er's requirements. I have been inquiring about this kind of thing for the past few years, but I have not gained anything. What I have collected is not even as good as what Star Emperor Mountain originally had. Yi Shiyun said somewhat sadly. Yun-er has only been in the sect for 3 years, but her strength has already grown to such a terrifying level. I fear that if we let her continue to grow, in less than 10 years, if she needs to temper her body, I have one. Sect master has such a thing? Yi Shiyun looked at him in amazement. Yes. Yang Kai said as he took out an ancient book from his space ring and handed it to Yi Shiyun. Take a look at this. Yi Shiyun took it and glanced at Yang Kai suspiciously before immersing her consciousness into it and reading it carefully. Yang Kai didn't say anything to disturb her and just sat there playing with Lin Yun. The little girl was still young and had been living with Huang Wan in Seaside City, living in a secluded hut and never seeing the sun. Later she came to High Heaven Sect. She had never been in contact with the outside world, so she was pure and innocent. Her childish words also made Yang Kai's state of mind calm down. 2 hours later, Yi Shiyun let out a long breath and put down the ancient book, a look of pleasant surprise flashing across her eyes. Great Elder, what do you think? Yang Kai raised his head and asked. Yi Shiyun said excitedly, it should be possible for Yun. This book is quite peculiar. In terms of grade alone, it isn't too high, but its success is not determined by the grade of the materials used, but rather by the quality of the materials used. And I think so too. I already have my own 5 elements indestructible sword tempering art, and the higher the grade of the materials used, the better the body tempering effect. It has nothing to do with the quality of the materials used, Yang Kai grinned. What's even rarer is that the materials needed can be replaced. If one wanted the 5 elements indestructible sword tempering art, they had to find supreme treasures of the 5 elements. Even the worst of these treasures could not be lower than the monster core of a 10th order monster beast. Yang Kai had spent a lot of effort to collect all of these at that time. Now that High Heaven Sect's influence had grown, it shouldn't be difficult to collect such supreme treasures of the 5 elements. Even if the materials collected were not as good as Yang Kai's son's true essence and divine nullification sand, they should at least be able to collect something of the same grade as profound gold. Once the materials were gathered, he would let Lin Yun use them first. When he found better materials in the future, it would be fine to replace them. This would not have any effect on the person. Yi Shiyun also saw this point, which was why she was so excited. Sect Master can rest assured, I will only let Yun use this book and will not spread it outside, Yi Shiyun said solemnly. It's fine, even if you spread it outside, I'm afraid only a few people can do it, Yang Kai chuckled. The monster core of a 10th order monster beast was equivalent to an Origin King Realm Master, so how many people could hunt such an existence? As such, it didn't matter if this book was spread outside. However, it does require a very strong spiritual energy, otherwise, one would not be able to withstand the excruciating pain. Yi Shiyun glanced at Lin Yun sympathetically. The little girl didn't know much about the world and didn't know what had happened to her body. She only knew that she had a lot of strength, but she didn't understand that this strength was like a rope that was slowly tightening around her life. I'll have to trouble Great Elder to cultivate her, Yang Kai smiled. I will arrange for Yun to use her spiritual energy as soon as possible, Yi Shiyun nodded. Let's put Yun's matter aside for the time being. Great Elder, I have something else to ask you. Yang Kai's expression became serious as he stared at her solemnly. Please speak, Sect Master. I will soon be setting off on a long voyage. I will be taking some of the sect's resources with me, otherwise, the starship will not be able to operate. Yang Xiuzhu, Chu Han Yi, and Lin Yu Rao, these 3 elders had also agreed to leave with me. What about you, Great Elder? Will you come with me? Me? A trace of expectation flashed across Yi Shiyun's face, but she quickly shook her head. Sect Master is being kind, I won't follow. As expected. Yang Kai sighed, seemingly having expected this. Yi Shiyun's strength was extraordinary and could be said to be the strongest master on Shadowed Star. Her Shur had reached the grand accomplishment stage and she had already grasped the threshold of territory, reaching the qualifications to break through to the Origin King realm long ago. In this regard alone, no one could compare to her. It could be said that as long as she escaped the constraints of Shadowed Star's world principles, with Yi Shiyun's cultivation, there was at least an 80% chance she could break through to the Origin King realm. This probability was terrifying. However, the great emperors were still sleeping in her loft, so it was impossible for her to leave without worry. Yang Kai had long guessed this, but he still had to ask. Now that he had received an answer from her, Yang Kai didn't want to persuade her otherwise. In that case, I'll have to trouble Great Elder to take care of everything in the sect, Yang Kai said leisurely. With this queen here, the sect will definitely be safe. Good, with you in charge I can rest assured, Yang Kai nodded. If you have time, remember to help me find someone. Yi Shiyun looked at Yang Kai puzzledly, wondering who this person was that he couldn't let go of. Flowing Cloud Valley's Lu Yi. Yang Kai sneered meaningfully, if you find him, don't waste any time with him, just kill him directly. Good. Yi Shiyun nodded. Although she didn't understand why Yang Kai wanted to find this person, since it was the sect master's request, she naturally wouldn't ask. Yang Kai got up and left to make the final preparations before leaving. He wanted Yi Shiyun to pay attention to Lu Yi because he had a bad premonition in his heart. He vaguely felt that there was something wrong with this Lu Yi. Without even mentioning the fact that he had repeatedly antagonized Yang Kai, there was no reason for Yang Kai to let him go, but this person's actions were also extremely secretive. Every time Yang Kai saw him, he would have a strange feeling. This feeling made him feel very wary, as if this Lu Yi was not ordinary. Although the success rate of using a starship to travel long distances was very high, it was still necessary to make all the necessary preparations. All kinds of materials had to be prepared, and the allocation of personnel had to be carefully considered. The entire High Heaven sect was mobilized. In just a few days, everything was ready. 5 days later, Qian Tong, who received the news, rushed to High Heaven sect. Fei Ji too did not come. City Lord Fei had narrowly escaped death in Fallen Emperor Mountain and his cultivation had fallen to the Second Order Origin returning realm. Even if he left Shadowed Star with Yang Kai, there was no hope for him to break through, so he simply chose to remain in retreat in Heavenly Fate City. Now that he had missed such an opportunity, Qian Tong couldn't help but sigh. MOU came from Clear Sky Sect. More than 3 years ago, Yang Kai and Clear Sky Sect had reached an agreement that Clear Sky Sect only needed one spot. Yang Kai didn't know what kind of internal discussion they had, but Sect Master Guzhen did not come. Instead, Mou, who was more familiar with Yang Kai, arrived. All of them were old acquaintances, so it was natural for them to exchange greetings after meeting. High Heaven Sect sent 3 third-order origin returning realm masters, naturally Yang Xiuzhu, Chu Han Yi, and Lin Yu Rao. These 5 people would carry the hopes and expectations of countless cultivators on Shadowed Star for tens of thousands of years, but whether they could break through to the Origin King realm would depend on their own efforts and opportunities. Yang Kai had simply provided them with an opportunity. Since ancient times, breaking through from the Origin Returning realm to the Origin King realm had been extremely difficult. Even across the entire territory of Shadowed Star, there were only a few Origin Kings. Any one of these people was a famous existence, a master worshipped by all cultivators on their respective stars. As such, even if these 5 people had the qualifications to break through, it was not certain they would succeed. Perhaps they would all fail. Half a month later, in First Heavenly Palace, Yang Kai, who had been meditating with his eyes closed, opened his eyes slowly, stood up, and walked out. Opening the palace door, Yang Kai saw a young woman standing in front of it, waiting quietly. Seeing Yang Kai come out, she took a deep breath and clenched her fists because of her excitement and nervousness. Qianyu. On this long voyage, Yang Kai certainly would not leave her behind. As someone who came from the same world as Yang Kai, she was also looking forward to finding Ice Master Qinya, Su Yan, and the others from Ice Sect. She was more eager than anyone to see the faces of those who had made her dream come true. Is everything ready? Yang Kai looked at her. Qianyu nodded. Everything is ready, we're just waiting for you. Then, let's go. Yang Kai grinned and strode forward. In his clenched fist, there was a crystal-clear bead that exuded a faint chill. Su Yan's Ice Soul bead. If the bead existed, the person would exist. If the bead broke, the person would die. As long as he had it, Yang Kai was certain that Su Yan was living safely in some corner of Shadowed Star's territory. As long as he had it, Yang Kai believed that the two of them would be reunited one day. Half an hour later, the dark starship slowly lifted off as High Heaven Sect's disciples cheered and sent it off. Chapter 1545. Inside the territory of Endless Star, a dark starship flew forward slowly. Although it didn't seem to be moving very fast, in fact, it was as fast as lightning, crossing hundreds of kilometers in the blink of an eye. Looking through a transparent window, everyone stared at the huge stars beside the starship and couldn't help marveling. Many people here had never observed Shadowed Star from this perspective before, so it wasn't until now that they realized how magnificent the stars they had raised were. Facing such stars, everyone couldn't help feeling a sense of respect. The starship's speed was extremely fast, but it was also very stable. Inside the hull, no one felt the slightest bump or vibration. Around them, a chaotic array of asteroids drifted, lifeless dead stars like cold giants that lay dormant in the starship's territory. Shadowed Star's territory extended 1,000,000 kilometers outside of the starship's territory, forming a safe zone. The great forces on Shadowed Star who owned starships would often send them to this territory to search for ores and minerals. Although the harvest was not great, this did not diminish the enthusiasm of these great forces. Occasionally, they would find some good things from these asteroids and dead stars. These things had never been produced on Shadowed Star before. However, beyond the 1,000,000-kilometer mark was the danger zone. All year round, the starship territory's astral winds could easily destroy starships. Star field storms, both large and small, formed here and were annihilated almost everywhere. Rapidly flying asteroids could smash any living being or moving object to pieces. Dead territory. This was the first barrier that isolated Shadowed Star from the outside world, and it was also the strongest barrier. It was like a protective barrier that surrounded Shadowed Star from 1,000,000 kilometers away, preventing anyone from leaving or entering. For tens of thousands of years, it wasn't that no one had ever left Shadowed Star to explore the wider world outside, but no one had ever succeeded and all of them had been stopped outside this dead territory. As the starship sailed into this place, everyone's palms began to sweat. Yang Kai had strengthened the starship's defenses to the limit, not caring about the consumption of Saint Crystal sources. Violent gales swept over from the territory of the star realm. It was as if an invisible beast was using its sharp claws to cut the battleship, attempting to destroy it and drag out the people hiding inside to fill their stomachs. Sharp and ear-piercing sounds of friction could be heard from outside the warship. Crick, 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 crick. Everyone's face turned ugly. The huge meteorites brought by the astral winds crashed into the battleship, causing the entire battleship to shake. Like a canoe in a stormy sea, the battleships dashed left and right in the dead territory, swaying left and right, unable to control the direction at all. They could only go with the flow and let it happen. Alarms and cries of alarm were constantly heard. Yang Kai bellowed as his divine sense left his body to check the situation outside and direct the actions of his subordinates. Yang Xiuzhu and the other Third-Order Origin returning Realm Masters also rushed into the power room under Yang Kai's instructions, sat on the spirit array, and pushed their Saint Qi into the starship, providing it with a little boost. Everyone was exchanging blows with the Grim Reaper. There was no room for the slightest mistake. Any negligence could lead to the destruction of the starship. In this terrifying place, the strength of a single person was simply too insignificant. In the dead zone outside Shadowed Star, even an Origin King Realm Master would likely die if they tried to force their way in, let alone the people inside the starship. Only by working together could they survive this crisis. The chaotic situation gradually stabilized, and after realizing that although the starship had been ravaged, it was still impregnable, everyone's panic gradually calmed down and they began performing their duties in an orderly manner. The Origin King grade starship refined by Yang Yen provided a safe and reliable guarantee for everyone. After a full month, High Heaven Sect's starship suddenly broke free from the entanglement of the dead territory and rushed into the vast territory of the starship. There were no longer strange noises coming from outside, and the starship was no longer shaking. After everyone confirmed that they had successfully left Shadowed Star, loud cheers broke out inside the starship, everyone weeping tears of joy and excitement. Yang Xiuzhu and the others appeared in front of Yang Kai with pale faces, all of them looking like frosted eggplants, their auras extremely weak. "Thank you for your hard work," Yang Kai nodded to them. "Yang Kai, did you feel something?" Qian Tong looked at him solemnly and asked. Yang Kai gently nodded. He had noticed something the moment the starship rushed into the dead territory, but over the past month, he had been in constant danger, his life hanging by a thread, so he had not been able to think about it carefully. Now that he had escaped from the dead territory, he had time to recall that feeling. "So you also noticed something?" "I thought I was mistaken," Qian Tong said solemnly. "Emperor pressure." Mou added, "That dead territory is filled with emperor pressure, and there is more than one." There are two emperor pressures." Qian Tong gently nodded. "One is similar to the aura emitted by the Emperor Garden, while the other is unfamiliar." "What's going on?" "I have a guess, but I'm not sure." Mou showed a contemplative expression. Everyone turned to look at him. Mou's face twitched as his eyes filled with awe. Smacking his lips, he said in a dry tone, "If I say it out loud, you'll definitely think I'm crazy." "No," Qian Tong shook his head. "Old Mo, you can rest assured." Yang Kai also nodded. Let's hear it. Whether it's true or not, everyone can judge for themselves." Mou smiled bitterly. This old master considers himself to be quite knowledgeable, but after entering the dead territory, he realized he was a frog in a well. I'll tell you what I think, but whether it's true or not, I don't know. In any case, don't laugh at this old master. This old master is just speculating. There is no real evidence to prove. Don't be long-winded, just say it." Yang Xiuzhu interrupted him impatiently. "The dead zone is filled with two different types of emperor's auras, and these two emperors' auras are still entangled with each other, in a constant cycle. I think the aura we are familiar with belongs to the master of the Emperor Garden, the great emperors of Star Field. Although I don't know who the other one belongs to, it should be a character on the same level as the great emperors." Mou's expression became dignified. The formation of the dead territory is perhaps a result of the struggle between these two characters. After saying this, Mou fell silent. Qian Tong's jaw dropped as he stared at him incredulously. On the other hand, Yang Kai, Yang Xiuzhu, and the others glanced at each other calmly. That's impossible, right? This old master also thinks he's wrong. Mou let out a hollow laugh. The great emperors were already a legend, and no one could confirm whether they really existed. Now, there was a powerful master on the same level as them who had fought with them before. Even Mou himself did not believe this speculation. What Senior Mo says should be correct. Yang Kai gently nodded, confirming his guess. Mou stared at Yang Kai in surprise before his eyes suddenly lit up and he hurriedly asked, Yang Kai, do you know something? Qian Tong turned his head and stared at Yang Kai eagerly. Yang Kai chuckled, I don't know much, but I do know that the great emperors once had an opponent who was no weaker than her. The two of them really did fight. Yang Xiuzhu and the others also knew this, but this was the first time Qian Tong and Mou had heard of it. Both of them were dumbfounded as they stared blankly at Yang Kai. All they could do was gasp for breath. It turns out that the culprit behind Shadowed Star's isolation was actually her. Yang Kai murmured. The situation in the dead territory was the best proof of this. There, the two emperor pressures were still entangled, and even after tens of thousands of years had passed, there was still no clear victor. Perhaps Yang Yan and this unknown enemy once fought in the dead territory, leading to the formation of this isolated zone around Shadowed Star. The ancient Supreme Profound Sect should also have been one of these battlefields, but it was unknown which one came first, compared to the one in the dead territory. Qian Tong and Mou still seemed to want to ask something, but Yang Kai did not give them the opportunity. All of you must be tired from this past month. Go back and rest for the time being. After passing through the dead territory, the rest of the journey should be safe. We may not encounter any living beings for the next few years, so all of you should enter retreat. Hearing him say this, Qian Tong and the others did not ask any more questions, simply nodding and returning to their respective rooms. Yang Kai stood in place and cast his eyes towards the deep star field before walking over to the star plate and placing his hand on it, immersing his consciousness into his knowledge sea and manifesting his soul avatar. Above his knowledge sea, a vast star field that had shrunk countless times appeared, floating quietly like a huge blueprint. This was Yang Kai's star field. If a cultivator on Shadowed Star wanted to leave Shadowed Star and enter the dead territory, the first obstacle was the dead territory, which no one could pass. And the second obstacle was the direction. There were many dangers in the dead territory, so when a starship sailed, it required someone with rich experience to guide it, and this responsibility generally fell to a certain profession called a chart master. A chart master could draw a star field that allowed a cultivator or starship to safely and effectively advance through the dead territory while avoiding the dangerous areas of the territory. Without a chart master to draw a star field, a starship was very likely to get lost in the dead territory and deviate from its destination. Because Shadowed Star was too isolated, there was no such profession as a chart master, and no one could draw a star field. However, on the other stars in the dead territory, chart masters were very popular and their status was not inferior to alchemists or artifact refiners. The star field in Yang Kai's knowledge sea was a kind of inheritance he had obtained from a chart master named Wu Suo. He had obtained it by chance when he first set foot in the dead territory. With this star, Yang Kai did not need to learn anything. He was a natural-born chart master. He could see the situation of the entire dead territory in his mind one by one, including the star where Tongshen realm was located. He had taken Qianyu to see this star, and he himself would often look at it and dream about it. For so many years, he had never had a chance to use the star field to guide his way. Now it had finally come in handy. Yang Kai's divine sense wandered back and forth across the huge star, consuming his spiritual energy at a rapid rate. Soon, he had locked onto a certain territory. This was where Qianyu had separated from Su Yan and the others. Yang Kai planned to go there first. Chapter 1546. He wanted to see if he could find Su Yen there. Thinking so, Yang Kai withdrew his divine sense from his knowledge sea and poured it into the star chart in front of him to draw the starship's navigation route. For a long time, Yang Kai didn't need to worry about this as the starship would sail along the route he drew until it reached its destination. Of course, that was provided it didn't encounter any dangers along the way. Time flew by. The starship had been moving forward smoothly and safely according to the route drawn by Yang Kai without encountering any twists and turns. Occasionally, a few strange-looking star beasts would jump out from nearby dead stars, but they were all killed by the disciples' artifact control crystal cannons. Inside his room, Yang Kai sat cross-legged with the purple origin furnace he obtained from the Emperor Garden in front of him. Around him were various boxes and bottles, a dazzling array of items. Yang Kai skillfully threw herbs into the purple origin furnace and poured his conflagrated spiritual energy into it, condensing the essence of these herbs, carving spirit arrays, and fusing them together, causing them to undergo wonderful transformations. Yang Kai precisely controlled the heat and the timing of each herb he threw in. Yang Kai was meticulous and enjoyed this process. Suddenly, he frowned and quickly increased the power of his conflagrated spiritual energy. The next moment, a burst of sound came from the purple origin furnace, followed by an unpleasant burnt smell. Yang Kai was stunned and his brow furrowed. He had failed again. With a calm expression, Yang Kai opened the lid of the purple origin furnace and poured out the dark stuff inside, piling it up nearby. There were many similar things piled up nearby, all of which were the products of Yang Kai's failed alchemy. Yang Kai didn't continue and instead fell into contemplation. It had been 2 years since Yang Kai left Shadowed Star. During these 2 years, Yang Kai had not wasted his time, cultivating a variety of divine technique, comprehending various secret techniques, and improving his alchemy skills. Yang Kai had lived a very fulfilling life. Since he began studying the alchemic way, Yang Kai rarely failed. His success rate in refining pills was much higher than that of ordinary alchemists, and the quality of the pills he refined was also very high, allowing him to condense the medicinal efficacies of herbs to the greatest extent. Firstly, his talent in alchemy, and secondly, his conflagrated knowledge a divine tool for alchemy, were 2 reasons why he was able to achieve such an achievement. However, in the past 2 years on the warship, he had experienced failure after failure. He could now refine origin-grade high-rank pills at will, but what he wanted to refine now was an Origin King-grade spirit pill. But until now, even though a lot of Origin King-grade herbs had been consumed, not a single Origin King-grade pill had been produced. This result made him a little depressed. It was extremely difficult to reach the peak of any profession, and in Star Territory, the Origin King realm was the peak. There were not many Origin King realm masters, and countless third-order Origin returning realm cultivators were stuck at a bottleneck, unable to advance any further until they died of old age, unable to pry into the true essence of the martial Tao. By the same token, Origin King-grade alchemists and artifact refiners were also extremely rare, much rarer than Origin Kings. Yang Kai's alchemy skills were currently stuck at this bottleneck, unable to improve any further. He had comprehended the true alchemy enlightenment scripture he had obtained from the Emperor Garden, but he could not obtain the answer he wanted. Yang Kai felt that his technique and control of the flames were not bad, but he still could not refine an Origin King-grade pill. Only when a pill had a spirit could it be called a spirit pill. There was such a sentence in the true alchemy enlightenment scripture that Yang Kai was extremely concerned about. As for how to make a pill have a spirit, Yang Kai was at a loss. Although Yang Kai had collected a lot of Origin King-grade herbs, he still couldn't withstand such consumption. After thinking about it for a while, Yang Kai put away the remaining herbs. Before he could fully comprehend this sentence, he felt that no matter how hard he tried, it would all be in vain. He needed to think about it carefully. Taking out the sun's true essence and the other supreme treasures of the 5 elements, Yang Kai began cultivating his 5 elements indestructible sword tempering art while comprehending the sentence in the true alchemy enlightenment scripture. Half a year later, Yang Kai, who was sitting in his room, suddenly opened his eyes. He felt the starship come to a stop. the sound of hurried footsteps came from outside the door, as if something had happened. Yang Kai got up, stretched out his hand, and opened the door. The next moment, Qian Yu's figure appeared in front of Yang Kai. "We're here!" Qian Yu shouted excitedly. "We're here!" Yang Kai raised his brow, his figure flickering as he appeared beside Qian Yu. Reaching out and wrapping his arm around her waist, Yang Kai's figure flickered again as the space force fluctuations became more obvious. Qian Yu only saw a flash of light before she and Yang Kai appeared outside the starship. Surrounded by the cold and vast star territory, large and small dead stars appeared in front of them. Seeing this scene, Qian Yu felt a sense of familiarity. She had recalled this place countless times in her mind, recalling the scene when she was separated from Ice Master Qinya and the others. There was no way she would remember it incorrectly. "It's here!" Qian Yu shouted excitedly. "It's here, there is a void corridor nearby. We only separated after entering this void corridor." Qian Yu didn't know what had happened to the void corridor, but after entering it, she was directly teleported to Shadowed Star while Ice Master Qinya and Su Yen were nowhere to be seen. If she hadn't met Yang Kai by chance, Qian Yu didn't dare imagine what her fate would have been like today. Only after entering star territory did she realize how insignificant her strength was. "A void corridor," Yang Kai murmured, closing his eyes as he frantically spread his divine sense outwards to investigate this place carefully. A moment later, Yang Kai opened his eyes slowly and took Qian Yu in a certain direction. The High Heaven Sect disciples who received his message also hurriedly piloted their starship. After a while, Yang Kai stopped somewhere in the void and stared forward solemnly. In front of him, there was indeed a very obvious space force fluctuation, and when one's divine sense probed it, it was immediately swallowed up. This void corridor had completely collapsed and could no longer be used. It wouldn't be long before it disappeared from this world. If Yang Kai hadn't cultivated the Tao of space, it wouldn't have been easy to find it. Yang Kai began searching carefully while Qian Yu waited nervously, not daring to disturb him. After a while, Yang Kai sighed. "How is it?" Qian Yu asked hurriedly. Yang Kai shook his head. "Based on this void corridor alone, it's impossible to speculate where Su Yen and the others went." Qian Yu's beautiful eyes, which had been filled with hope, instantly dimmed. "However, this void corridor isn't too powerful, so even if it can connect two places, it shouldn't be too far apart. You being able to appear on Shadowed Star is probably a stroke of luck. As for Su Yen and the others, they should be somewhere nearby. Wait a moment, let me see where the nearest cultivation star is. Let's go there and look around." Saying so, Yang Kai closed his eyes and immersed his divine sense into his knowledge sea to investigate the star. After a while, Yang Kai opened his eyes and returned to the starship with Qian Yu, ordering the disciples to adjust the direction of the starship and head towards a certain cultivation star. A few days later, a light blue star appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Looking down from the star field, this star was far smaller than Shadowed Star, only a quarter of its size. However, it was extremely beautiful and the world energy aura seemed to be extremely rich. There was no doubt that this was a rich cultivation star. The starship slowly sailed towards it until it left the atmosphere before Yang Kai stored it in the sealed world bead. Although he didn't know much about the situation on star territory, he at least knew that an Origin King-grade starship was too eye-catching. It was likely that even the financially powerful Hung Luo Chamber of Commerce only had a few. If he really drove the starship to this star, it would definitely attract the attention of others. Yang Kai had come here to find someone and didn't want to cause any trouble. The weaker disciples had also entered the sealed world bead. With such an emperor artifact, Yang Kai's actions were much more convenient. Qian Tong, the 5 third-order origin returning realm masters, and Qian Yu followed Yang Kai on their star shuttles and flew towards the stars. Half a day later, a group of 7 people set foot on this beautiful stars. The world energy here was similar to that of Shadowed Star, so it was impossible to say which was better, but Qian Tong and the others breathed in the air exaggeratedly as they stood in place, their expressions constantly changing, as if they were silently perceiving something. Suddenly, Qian Tong laughed loudly, his smile extremely carefree. There's no suppression, no restriction. I feel like the shackles that have been binding me have suddenly disappeared. Mou also looked excited. Yang Xiaozhu and the others were also the same, exchanging a glance with each other and seeing the joy in each other's eyes. Congratulations to all of you. Kai Yang naturally knew what they were talking about, so he grinned and offered his congratulations. This cultivation star did not have the powerful suppression of Shadowed Star's world principles, which meant that the shackles that had been restraining them from comprehending the heavenly way and martial Tao had disappeared. They now had a chance to break through to the Origin King realm. Everyone was extremely excited. Yang Kai, this old master won't say anything else, but this old master will remember your kindness. Qian Tong looked at Yang Kai seriously. Mou came to his senses and quickly expressed his gratitude. If Yang Kai hadn't taken them away from Shadowed Star, they would have died of old age, unable to touch the threshold of the Origin King realm. This opportunity was given to them by Yang Kai. Elder Qian is too serious. And let's find a place to settle down first. Perhaps we should stay here for a while. Yang Kai looked towards a city in the distance and said, and although there is no world principle suppression here, whether this place is suitable for breaking through or not still needs to be investigated first. Qian Tong nodded in agreement. Everyone reached a consensus and immediately set off towards the city in the distance. Green Water City, in a tea house, Yang Kai and the others sat around a table. A young waiter served a pot of spirit tea and was about to withdraw when Qian Tong called out to him. What instructions does Senior have? The waiter bowed to Qian Tong for a while with a smile on his face. There were many people coming and going in the tea house, so the waiter had long ago developed a pair of discerning eyes. Although he couldn't sense the cultivation of Qian Tong and the others, he knew that they were masters, so he didn't dare show any neglect. Chapter 1547. Qian Tong smiled kindly. Young man, don't be nervous. This old master stopped you just to ask you a few questions. And if you answer them well, these things will be yours. Saying so, Qian Tong took out a few pieces of high-rank St. Crystal and threw them on the table. The waiter's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was only able to earn 2 or 3 low-rank St. Crystals a month by serving tea here, but the few high-rank St. Crystals on the table were a shocking fortune for him. If he saved some money, he wouldn't have to worry about food and drink for the rest of his life. Quickly nodding and bowing, he said, Senior, please ask, this little one will tell you everything he knows. Although this little one is just an ordinary person who has never cultivated, he is still a native of this place. If Senior wants to know something, this little one will not disappoint. Qian Tong nodded, satisfied with the waiter's response. Without further ado, he asked directly, this old master wants to ask you, do you have any Origin King Realm masters here? Origin King Realm? The waiter's face became solemn as he looked around at Yang Kai and the others in surprise, a look of understanding soon appearing on his face as he chuckled. Several seniors shouldn't be cultivators of my Green Mountain Star, right? You're quite smart. Qian Tong didn't try to deny it. After all, if this waiter was a star, he should know something about this kind of thing. An Origin King Realm Master was a peak-level existence on any cultivation star, so if this waiter was really a cultivator of Green Mountain Star, he would definitely have heard of them. The waiter laughed dryly. Senior is too polite. This little one was just speaking casually. However, since several seniors have come to Green Mountain Star at this time, how could you not have inquired about these things? What should we inquire about? Qian Tong coldly snorted. The waiter didn't panic and said slowly, since several seniors have come here, you must have come to participate in the grand event. Although it is a bit early, it doesn't matter, just wait 2 years. There are other seniors who have come earlier. And as for whether there are any Origin Kings, when has Green Mountain Star ever lacked masters of this level? He had a contented look on his face, as if Origin Kings were everywhere on Green Mountain Star. Qian Tong and the others looked at each other. They were all interested and motioned for the waiter to continue. To be honest with several seniors, there are now 2 or 3 Origin Kings on Green Mountain Star. At its peak, there were more than a dozen, 2 of which were peak 3rd Order Origin Kings. 3rd Order Origin King? The two of you? Qian Tong and the others were trembling and staring blankly. They were shocked beyond words by the waiter's words. Is that true? Mou asked in a deep voice. I wouldn't dare to lie to you. Everyone knows about this. If you don't believe me, you can ask around. So, your Green Mountain star is quite suitable for a breakthrough? Qian Tong's eyes flashed with excitement. Although after coming here, Yang Kai did not feel the same oppressive world principles as he did on Shadowed Star. Whether or not he should stay here to cultivate and break through would require some careful investigation. Now that he had obtained such information from the waiter, he was naturally overjoyed. Of course. The waiter shook his head proudly. Didn't several seniors come here for this? You can tell? Qian Tong was surprised. Senior must be joking. Although this junior is an ordinary person, news of this once-in-a-thousand-years event has already spread throughout Green Mountain Star. Even a 3-year-old child has heard about it, so how could this junior not know? The waiter replied. Wait, what once-in-a-thousand-years event? Yang Kai looked at him suspiciously. The waiter had already mentioned it once, but Yang Kai had not paid much attention to it. Every cultivation star had its own style and customs. For example, Shadowed Star's Lu Yen sand field only opened once every few hundred years. Green Mountain Star also had such a thing. However, listening to the meaning of the waiter's words, this event seemed to be related to the breakthroughs of Qian Tong and the others, so Yang Kai immediately became interested. Hearing this question, the waiter was immediately stunned and scratched his head. What's wrong? Several seniors didn't come here to participate in the blood prison trial? Blood prison trial? Qian Tong and the others looked at each other blankly. Tell me in detail, what is this blood prison trial for? Yang Kai threw a few more pieces of high-rank Saint Crystal onto the table and said lightly. The waiter gulped and his face filled with joy, knowing that he had run into a noble man today, so how could he dare neglect? Quickly clearing his throat, he said, This blood prison trial is prepared for masters like several seniors. What do you mean? Qian Tong raised his brow. Because those who participate in the blood prison trial are all top masters at the Third Order Origin Returning Realm. It is said that in there, they can break through to the Origin King Realm. The waiter's words were shocking. Really? Qian Tong stood up with a look of excitement. The waiter was taken aback and quickly nodded. This lowly one does not dare deceive you. The blood prison trial is indeed like this, but this lowly one does not know the specific details. Senior should also be able to see that this lowly one is just an ordinary person who has never even cultivated before, so he does not know the details of the blood prison trial. Then what do you know? Yang Kai motioned to Qian Tong to calm down and asked the waiter. This lowly one knows that the Origin King Realm Master on Green Mountain's Star all participated in the blood prison trial in the past. Not only them, but there are many other Origin King Realm Masters in the territory of this star who also participated in the blood prison trial. There are cultivators from other cultivation stars who came here? Qian Tong frowned. And, as early as a few years ago, some people arrived on Green Mountain Star, but there weren't many of them. However, as time passed, more and more people came here, which is why this lowly one thought several seniors. The waiter looked at Qian Tong and the others anxiously. So that's how it is. Yang Kai nodded. Good, tell us about the blood prison trial. Tell us what you know. If you don't, we won't blame you. Qian Tong and the others nodded in agreement, all of them directing encouraging looks towards the waiter. The waiter calmed down and after a moment of contemplation, began explaining. The blood prison trial was the biggest event on Green Mountain Star, one that only opened once every 1,000 years. Every time it opened, it would attract a large number of Third Order Origin Returning Realm cultivator to participate. The entire trial process was extremely bloody, and a large number of cultivators would fall. But with great danger, the harvest was also amazing. Often, Origin King Realm Masters would be born. Sometimes there was even more than one. As such, even if it was dangerous, all Third Order Origin Returning Realm Masters would rush to participate. This trial could be said to be like an army of thousands crossing a single log bridge. Throughout the entire star territory, There were countless third-order origin returning realm masters, but origin kings were extremely rare. Even if there were many opportunities in the Blood Prison trial, it was extremely difficult to break through. Most of the third-order origin realm masters who rushed into the Blood Prison trial might fall, and perhaps none of them would be able to break through until the trial ended, but this still did not diminish the determination of these masters to pursue greater strength. The reason why the Blood Prison trial had such a magical effect was because of the existence of a territory. That place was filled with the power of a territory, and a third-order origin returning realm cultivator could absorb it. If they could comprehend the true essence of this territory, there was hope for them to break through. Why is this place called the Blood Prison so filled with the power of a territory, and why is it so incomplete? Qian Tong was very curious about this. It all started from a great war. The waiter had the potential to be a storyteller. When he talked about things, it was easy for people to understand. According to his description, the Blood Prison was once a battlefield, a place where more than 20 origin kings and a large number of their disciples fought. Many years ago, Green Mountain Star had 2 top masters at the third-order origin king realm. Even when looking at the entire star territory, these 2 masters were considered to be among the best. Each of them led a great force and were enemies with each other, resulting in many frictions and conflicts between them. This grievance lasted hundreds of years, and as a result, it became more and more intense, eventually leading to the involvement of these 2 masters themselves. Not only that, but these 2 masters also invited their friends to come and help them. The friends of these 2 origin kings were naturally of this level as well. As a result, a great battle that was powerful enough to destroy the entire star broke out somewhere on Green Mountain Star. Not only were there more than 20 origin kings involved in that battle, but there were also the disciples of the 2 masters who led them. There were no casualties. No one knew the final result, only that after the battle, there were mountains of corpses and rivers of blood. Of the more than 20 origin kings, none seemed to have survived, all of them having fallen. From then on, that place was called the Blood Prison by the people of Green Mountain Star. It was said that even now, the earth was still red, as if it had been drenched in blood. Traces of the great battle could be seen everywhere, and even the flowing time Great Emperor could not erase them. The Blood Prison was thus born. Inside the Blood Prison, there were all kinds of territory fragments that were extremely dangerous and unpredictable. Those below the third-order origin returning realm would not be able to withstand them at all. Only a third-order origin returning realm cultivator could break into the Blood Prison at certain times to comprehend and benefit from these fragments. If one was lucky, they might even break through to the origin king realm. If it was just this point alone, it might not have been enough to attract so many third-order origin returning realm masters. It was rumored that the Blood Prison still contained artifacts used by those origin kings. Each of these artifacts was origin king grade and difficult to find in the outside world. There also seemed to be the inheritances of those 2 top masters hidden here. If someone could obtain these inheritances, they would undoubtedly be able to break through to the origin king realm in the future, perhaps even reaching the heights of those 2 masters. All kinds of temptations and benefits made the Blood Prison a highly sought-after piece of meat that everyone coveted. Whenever the Blood Prison trial opened, all the third-order origin returning realm masters in the Star Territory who heard the news would rush here. At this time, Green Mountain Star was also at its busiest. There were only 2 to 3 years until the next Blood Prison trial opened, which was why the waiter had such a misunderstanding after listening to Qian Tong's question. He thought that Qian Tong and the others had heard the news and rushed here to participate in the Blood Prison trial. Chapter 1548. Inside the tea house, a group of 7 people sat around, the atmosphere quiet. Qian Tong and the others all looked excited and were unable to calm down for a long time. The news they heard from the waiter had greatly excited them. Originally, as long as they could escape the constraints of Shadowed Star's world principles, they would have been satisfied, but now that they had arrived on Green Mountain Star, they would encounter such a good thing. For these people who had spent their entire lives struggling on Shadowed Star in pursuit of a higher martial Tao, There was nothing more exciting than this news. There was no need for discussion as everyone could see the desire in each other's eyes. They obviously wanted to participate. You don't need to worry, if what the waiter said is true, there is still some time before the blood prison trial opens. If you are interested in participating, you can stay here and inquire about it before taking action. Yang Kai glanced over at them. That waiter is just an ordinary person. Although the blood prison trial is a once-in-a-thousand-year event, I'm afraid he doesn't know much about it. This kind of thing really needs to be investigated and confirmed. Yang Xiaozhu gently nodded, agreeing with Yang Kai's point of view. Since that's the case, let's stay here. It's still early anyway. If this place is really that good, we won't leave for the time being, Qian Tong proposed. No problem, Mou nodded. After coming to an agreement, everyone hurriedly found a good inn in Greenwater City and booked a few rooms to stay. Yang Kai did not stay. After entrusting Qian Yu to the care of Qian Tong and the others, he left Greenwater City on his star shuttle alone. He needed to find traces of Su Yan on Green Mountain Star. With the connection between him and Su Yan, if Su Yan really did end up on this star, it would not be difficult to find her. As long as the two of them were within a certain range, they would naturally sense each other. What's more, Su Yan's ice soul bead was still in Yang Kai's hands, so it would definitely react to Su Yan. Yang Kai moved like the wind as he stood atop his star shuttle and began to wander around Green Mountain Star with a look of expectation. Passing through towering mountains and lofty ridges, crossing rivers and rivers, Yang Kai left large tracts of land behind him. As time passed, he gradually became disappointed. Green Mountain Star was the closest star to where Qian Yu, Su Yan, and the others had been separated, so it was very likely that she had ended up here. The rising star, which was a little further away, was at least a few months away from here. Yang Kai felt that Su Yan shouldn't have gone too far. However, even after searching for a while, he couldn't find the slightest trace of Su Yan, nor did the ice soul bead react in the slightest, a result that surprised him greatly. Su Yan was not here. During these 6 months, Yang Kai ran almost all over Green Mountain Star without stopping for a moment, but the final result disappointed him. Yang Kai stood on top of a mountain peak, looking at the scenery in the distance with a lonely expression. Not being able to find Su Yan, his mood was not very good. In the forest, there was a pair of wild eyes staring at him. Using the cover of the forest, they quietly approached him. This was the territory of a powerful monster beast. Without its master's permission, no living creature was allowed to enter. Any living being that dared to violate this rule had already become food for this demonic beast. The monster beast had its own intuition, so it quietly stared at Yang Kai. Realizing that this person's strength wasn't too strong, it prepared to slaughter him and let Yang Kai know the consequences of trespassing on its territory. With the help of the wind, it completely eliminated its scent and approached Yang Kai step by step, looking for the best place and opportunity to attack. Suddenly, it saw Yang Kai turn around and glance at the place where it was hiding. "Consider yourself unlucky," Yang Kai muttered, grinning fiercely. This grin caused the approaching monster beast to feel a chill run down its spine, and an extremely uneasy feeling suddenly spread from the depths of its heart. Before it could do anything, Yang Kai waved his hand and summoned his 3 helpers. The stone mongoose carried the heaven-shaking pillar and suddenly turned into a stone giant. The artifact spirit let out a cry and turned into a fiery red bird. The dragon bone sword released an astonishing pressure, accompanied by a dragon's roar, and a giant green dragon more than 100 feet long appeared. The monster beast's eyes revealed an anthropomorphic look of horror. It turned around and fled. At this moment, it knew that it had chosen the wrong target. "Kill it!" Yang Kai grinned fiercely. The earth immediately trembled. The stone mongoose strode forward, leaving a deep footprint on the ground with every step. The fiery bird turned into a red light and quickly approached the monster beast, burning all the trees in its path and turning them to ashes in the blink of an eye. The giant green dragon followed closely behind. Yang Kai exhaled softly, as if he wanted to release the knot in his heart. Only then did he follow unhurriedly. Right now, he was in a bad mood, and the monster beast dared to covet him. It was simply courting death. He needed to do something. The monster beast's angry roar and the stone mongoose's low growl could be heard, mixed with the cries of the fiery bird and the roar of the dragon bone sword. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth intertwined with each other, and in the forest, a massacre was taking place. Although the monster beast's level was not low, being at the peak of the 9th rank and only one step away from the 10th rank, it was no match for the stone mongoose's fiery bird and the dragon bone sword. Even if it wanted to escape, it had no chance. There was no suspense in the battle. By the time Yang Kai arrived, the monster beast that had coveted him just now was already lying on the ground, lifeless. Its waist was broken, and white bone stubble poked out of its body. It seemed to have been smashed by the stone mongoose with the heaven-shaking pillar. Its fur was charred black, obviously caused by the artifact spirit. The giant green dragon hovered above its corpse, seemingly wanting to devour its flesh and blood essence. Yang Kai stopped it and quickly rushed to the monster beast's corpse. He calmly shot a golden blood thread into its body. Under the control of Yang Kai's divine sense, the golden blood thread swam like a fish through the monster beast's corpse. A bizarre scene appeared. The monster beast's corpse shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if the energy contained in its body was being devoured by something. Yang Kai looked at this scene with a calm expression, as if he had already expected this. Not long after, the monster beast's corpse was completely dried up, and even its monster core had disappeared. Yang Kai raised his hand and a golden and red thread flew out of the corpse, moving back and forth between Yang Kai's fingers as if it was alive. Looking at it quietly, Yang Kai's eyes filled with surprise and joy, his previous disappointment easing slightly. With a thought, the golden blood thread in his hand suddenly twisted and squirmed, transforming into the appearance of a monster beast. It looked no different from the monster beast lying on the ground, and even its size was similar. However, this monster beast transformed from the golden blood thread was gold and red, and its eyes moved about as if it had intelligence. The golden blood thread's transformation. This was recorded in the second half of the demon blood thread secret technique. Yang Kai had long since thoroughly comprehended it, but he had never had the opportunity to do so. The transformation of the golden blood thread was not only manifested by the fusion of different numbers of golden blood threads, but also by the fusion of different killing techniques. It could also allow the golden blood thread to devour the flesh and soul of the monster beast, giving it new transformations. This was a new form of the golden blood thread, the crystallization of the wisdom of the senior who created this secret technique. During his trip to the Emperor Garden, Yang Kai had fought with the beautiful temple master of Demon Blood Temple and had seen her 2 demon blood threads transform into 2 blood snakes. At that time, he had been very curious about how the beautiful temple master had accomplished this. Later, after comprehending the second half of the demon blood thread secret technique, Yang Kai understood its mysteries. The golden blood thread was condensed from Yang Kai's golden blood, so it could devour the flesh and blood essence of the monster beast and absorb the energy from its monster core, allowing it to transform into a blood beast. The 2 blood snakes of Demon Blood Temple's temple master were the blood beasts transformed from her demon blood threads. The blood beasts could inherit the abilities of the monster beast when it was alive, and because they were transformed from Yang Kai's golden blood, they were connected to his soul, allowing him to command them as he wished. Previously, on Shadowed Star, Yang Kai had not had time to find a suitable monster beast, so he had not been able to learn the blood beast technique. Now that he had encountered a suitable one here, naturally he would not let it go. With the help of the stone mongoose, this was an easy task. Releasing his divine sense and probing this blood beast, Yang Kai gently nodded in satisfaction. In terms of aura alone, this blood beast transformed from his golden blood thread should not be weaker than a second-order origin returning realm cultivator. Perhaps there was some difference in strength between it and when it was alive, but it was not by much. The most important thing was that Yang Kai had more than 1 golden blood thread. As long as there were enough monster beast, all of Yang Kai's golden blood threads could be transformed into blood beasts. When the time came, hundreds of blood beasts could be released together. Even if he faced an origin king, Yang Kai would not necessarily be powerless. However, it was not easy to find a suitable monster beast, so this matter would have to be done slowly. Thinking so, Yang Kai willed himself and stretched out his hand to touch the blood beast. The blood beast immediately shrank, and in the blink of an eye, it was only the size of a pigeon egg. Leaping up, it landed on Yang Kai's palm. Yang Kai smiled lightly and was about to put it away when he suddenly thought of something and stared carefully at the blood beast in his palm, a look of contemplation flashing across his face. Sinking into contemplation, Yang Kai seemed to be comprehending something. After a long time, Yang Kai's body shook and his eyes flashed as he muttered, "Pills can only be called spirit pills when they have spirit, so that's how it is." At this moment, Yang Kai somewhat understood the meaning behind the words in the True Alchemy Enlightenment scripture that had confused him for a long time. Although it was just a guess, it was worth a try. If he succeeded, he could successfully refine an Origin King grade spirit pill and be promoted to an Origin King grade alchemist. "Spread out and cover for me. Don't let anything disturb me," Yang Kai ordered. His 3 great helpers immediately dispersed and stood guard nearby. Yang Kai sat down cross-legged and with a wave of his hand took out the purple origin furnace and some boxes containing herbs from his space ring. Flicking his finger, Yang Kai sent a few strands of Saint Qi into the purple origin furnace before picking up a jade box, opening it, and taking out an Origin King grade herb from it, placing it directly into the purple origin furnace. Conflagrated knowledge Qi burst out and Yang Kai began to control the temperature of the condensed medicinal liquid. He was familiar with this process. Chapter 1549. Inside the starship, Yang Kai had repeated this process countless times, so he was well aware of every step. Yang Kai was confident that his grasp of the heat and the timing of the herbs was flawless, but for some reason, he was unable to refine an Origin King grade spirit pill. But now, he had a bold conjecture. Whether this idea could be realized or not had yet to be verified, so Yang Kai was extremely cautious, not daring to show the slightest carelessness. Origin King grade herbs were thrown into the purple origin furnace one after another, and under the tempering of Yang Kai's conflagrated knowledge Qi and the assistance of various spirit arrays, these herbs were transformed into medicinal liquids that fused with each other, causing some magical and mysterious changes to occur. Yang Kai's demeanor became more and more focused, and his movements became more and more careful as he threw in the herbs. One by one, the spirit arrays were drawn by his conflagrated knowledge Qi and imprinted into the purple origin furnace to assist in the refinement of the herbs. Everything was in order, and no mistakes were made. Time passed little by little, and Yang Kai's forehead began to ooze fine sweat. Refining an Origin King grade pill was also a great test for Yang Kai. Not only did it require him to control his spiritual energy, but there were also various psychological burdens. The pressure on him was as heavy as a mountain. A faint fragrance began to fill the air from the purple origin furnace as the medicinal liquids began to fuse perfectly. However, Yang Kai did not relax because of this. During the 2 years aboard the starship, Yang Kai had smelled the medicinal fragrance coming from the purple origin furnace countless times, but he had never succeeded in refining a spirit pill. Every time he tried, it would end in failure. Now, he had reached the most critical moment of alchemy. Yang Kai's nose twitched gently as he sensed the changes in the medicinal fragrance, looking for the right opportunity. The fragrance gradually became stronger, and soon, the surrounding 1,000-meter radius seemed to be filled with this unique medicinal fragrance, making one feel refreshed. At a certain moment, when this fragrance reached its peak, Yang Kai's eyes suddenly flashed. Now was the time. He stretched out his hand and lifted it in the air. A ball of gold and red light appeared on his palm. Inside the ball of light, there was a shadow of a beast that had shrunk countless times. It was bouncing inside the ball of light. Blood beast. It was none other than the blood beast that Yang Kai had just refined with his golden blood thread. Lifting the lid of the purple origin cauldron, Yang Kai threw the blood fiend into it. Silently, under the tremendous power of his conflagrated spiritual energy, the blood fiend instantly disappeared and merged into the medicinal liquid inside the cauldron. There was a faint smell of blood mixed with the medicinal fragrance. Not only did it not feel abrupt, but because of the smell of blood, the medicinal fragrance became stronger. Yang Kai's eyes lit up, faintly feeling that he had grasped the key point. Not daring to delay, Yang Kai hurriedly urged his conflagrated spiritual energy to continue refining the medicinal liquid. All of the insights he obtained from comprehending the true alchemy enlightenment scripture were used by Yang Kai at this moment. His movements were as smooth as flowing water, without the slightest hesitation. The blood beast condensed from the golden blood threads and the essence of the monster beast's flesh and blood completely dissolved, becoming a part of the medicinal liquid. The purple origin cauldron suddenly shook, as if some unknown change was occurring inside. Yang Kai's expression brightened as he hurriedly suppressed it with his conflagrated spiritual energy. A sizzling sound rang out as if some kind of living creature was struggling inside the purple origin cauldron, slamming into its walls in an attempt to escape. Yang Kai remained unmoved. After half a cup of tea's worth of time, the movement inside the cauldron gradually subsided. Yang Kai took back his conflagrated spiritual energy, took a deep breath, and stared at the purple origin cauldron solemnly and hesitantly. Whether he succeeded or failed would depend on the result. Yang Kai did not know whether his alchemy this time was successful or not, but at least there was no burning smell like before, which was a good start. After hesitating for a long time, Yang Kai stretched out his hand towards the purple origin cauldron. If he stuck his head out, he would be cut in half, so he might as well be straightforward about it. The lid of the purple origin cauldron was lifted by Yang Kai, and at that moment, a stream of light suddenly flew out of the cauldron, circled around, and tried to escape into the distance. "Where do you think you're going?" Yang Kai shouted as he stretched out his hand towards the stream of light, his movements as fast as lightning, and grabbed it in the palm of his hand. The moment he touched it, Yang Kai could feel the resistance and struggle coming from it, but it soon subsided, as if the thing in his hand had accepted its fate. Yang Kai let go of his hand and examined it carefully. A pale silver pill about the size of a longan fruit appeared in front of his eyes. The fragrance it gave off was not as strong as when it was being refined, so even when Yang Kai leaned in, he could only smell a faint fragrance, but the feeling it gave off was completely different from before. It made him feel even more relaxed and happy. An Origin King grade spirit pill. Under the investigation of his divine sense, Yang Kai confirmed that the medicinal efficacies coming from this spirit pill were indeed that of an Origin King grade spirit pill. Although it was only a low-rank pill, its quality was extremely high. Yang Kai showed a look of joy as he observed it carefully, only letting out a laugh after a long time. He finally understood what it meant to say that only pills with spirit could be called spirit pills. The Origin King grade spirit pill in front of him was the best proof of this. His golden blood threads were rich in spirituality, and so were the blood beasts transformed from them. Using the blood beast as a guide to refine an Origin King grade spirit pill, Yang Kai was not disappointed. If this was just a guess before the refinement, it had now been confirmed. Pills did not possess spirituality for no reason. Even the highest grade Origin King grade herbs did not possess spirituality, unless they were world spirit treasures that had developed some form of sentience. Since that was the case, Yang Kai had to use something with spirituality to refine this pill. Pill spirit. As long as he had a pill spirit, Yang Kai could refine an Origin King grade spirit pill. The blood beast was the pill spirit of the spirit pill in his hand. Yang Kai had suddenly realized this when he saw the blood beast's spirituality, and after trying it out, it really worked. Yang Kai did not know how other Origin King grade alchemists refined Origin King grade pills, but there was absolutely no problem with the method he had comprehended. The true alchemy enlightenment scripture had not clearly pointed out this path to him, so this method was entirely his own creation. If 1,000 alchemists meditated with the true alchemy enlightenment scripture, they might gain 1,000 insights. Yang Kai saw his own alchemic Tao from the true alchemy enlightenment scripture. The pill in his hand was just a 3 spirits pure pill that could increase one's cultivation. It was not a very high-grade Origin King grade pill, and although its value was high, it was not heaven-defying. At the very least, using a blood beast refined from a single golden blood thread as a pill spirit was a bit of a waste. Although this method was feasible, if he really used this method to perform alchemy in the future, it would not be long before Yang Kai's golden blood threads were exhausted. This kind of consumption was not something Yang Kai could afford. How could he improve on this? Yang Kai was not satisfied with this and instead fell into contemplation. Soon he had a new idea. The blood beast had a high spirituality and could indeed be used as a pill spirit. A pure golden blood thread or even his own golden blood should also be able to bear this heavy responsibility. Perhaps, the soul of the monster beast could also be used. Thinking of this, Yang Kai immediately put aside his many distracting thoughts and began to verify his ideas. Half a day later, another 3 spirits pure pill was born in Yang Kai's hands. This spirit pill was refined using Yang Kai's golden blood as a catalyst. Comparing the 2 spirit pills together, Yang Kai was surprised to find that the efficacy of the first refinement of the 3 spirits pure pill seemed to be slightly higher than the second refinement. Perceiving this, Yang Kai had a plan in his heart. Not continuing, Yang Kai began to search for a suitable monster beast in the jungle. A month later, Yang Kai held a jade bottle in his hand. This bottle was filled with Origin King grade pills, each of them a light silver color. In order to refine this bottle of 3 spirits pure pill, Yang Kai had spent a lot of effort, killing several dozen monster beast 8th order and above. After some experiments, Yang Kai determined that his previous idea was feasible. In order to refine an Origin King grade spirit pill, it was not necessary to use one's own golden blood as a catalyst. Any existence that had a spirit that did not conflict with the spirit of the herbs could be used as a catalyst. For example, the soul of the monster beast. Yang Kai had the demon eye of annihilation, which had fused with the power of the colored glass divine light, so it was not a problem for him to restrain the soul of a monster beast. If he could restrain the monster beast's soul from its body and integrate it into the herbs, the pill would gain a spirit. However, the requirements for Origin King grade spirit pills were not low. The soul of a 7th order monster beast was not enough. The soul of an 8th order monster beast was acceptable, and the 9th order monster beast was the best choice. If he could obtain the soul of a 10th order monster beast, Yang Kai felt that he could refine a spirit pill with pill veins. In addition to the soul of a monster beast, those world spirit treasures that had gained sentience could also play the role of a pill spirit. The grade of the pill spirit was directly related to the success rate of pill refinement. After many failures, Yang Kai concluded that his harvest was huge. After a month of hard work, he had produced a bottle of Origin King grade spirit pills, consuming countless materials. This also marked his promotion to Origin King grade alchemist, standing at the peak of the alchemic Tao within the star territory. This method was his own creation, and only he could implement it. It was very difficult for others to restrain the soul of a dead monster beast and integrate it into herbs. So, even if someone spied on Yang Kai's alchemy method, they would not be able to replicate it unless they used a similar secret technique. The sublimation of his alchemy skills had allowed him to deepen his understanding of the heavenly way and martial Tao. Although his cultivation realm had not changed much, his grasp of his own strength had become much better than before. Now that his alchemy level had reached the Origin King grade, Yang Kai's next step was to study alchemy techniques. He had always thought that a single set of herbs could only refine a single pill. For so many years, he had done so. However, the true alchemy enlightenment scripture had put forward a different and innovative idea. In fact, a single set of herbs could refine more than one pill. If one's luck was bad, it would not be a problem to refine 35 pills, but if one's luck was good, it would be possible to refine 78 pills. This idea had opened Yang Kai's eyes to another vast world of alchemy. However, if one wanted to achieve this incredible achievement, they had to use a special method to refine a pill before it was formed. This required a lot of experience, and not every alchemist could do it. Chapter 1550. This kind of alchemy technique filled Yang Kai's heart with excitement. In the past, the grade of the pills he refined was not high, and the materials were easy to find. Refining one pill per set of materials was not a problem. With High Heaven Sect as his backing, Yang Kai did not need to worry about the source of materials. But now that he was an Origin King grade alchemist, the materials he needed to refine pills were not only precious but also difficult to find. Even with High Heaven Sect's support, he could not find too many materials. If he could refine more than one spirit pill per set of materials, it would be a huge profit for him. However, this matter was not urgent. Yang Kai had just become an Origin King grade alchemist and still needed to accumulate a lot of experience. Only when he had accumulated a certain amount of experience in refining Origin King grade spirit pills would he be able to delve deeper. Half a month later, Yang Kai returned to Greenwater City. Not being able to find Su Yen on this trip, Yang Kai was not prepared to stay on this Origin star any longer. He needed to return to Tongxian Realm as soon as possible and transfer his family and friends to Shadowed Star to provide them with a better environment and resources. Arriving at the inn where Qian Tong and the others were staying, Yang Kai released his divine sense and could not help feeling stunned. Qian Tong and the others were not here. This unexpected discovery made Yang Kai's heart jump as he wondered if Qian Tong and the others had encountered some kind of accident. After all, before he left, he had made an appointment with them to meet here. Where could they have gone? Yang Kai frowned, took out his communication artifact, and poured his divine sense into it. A moment later, the communication artifact lit up and a burst of spiritual energy pulsed from it. Yang Kai quickly sank his divine sense to investigate. After spying on the message Qian Tong sent to him, Yang Kai was extremely surprised. They had not encountered any accidents. On the contrary, they were now living well and had even become Greenwater City's honored elders. This result greatly surprised Yang Kai. Putting away the communication artifact, Yang Kai rushed out of the inn and walked towards a building in the center of Greenwater City. When he got there, Qian Tong and the others were already welcoming him with smiles on their faces. They hadn't seen Yang Kai for a few months, so they didn't ask him what he was doing. They warmly welcomed Yang Kai into the building and asked someone to serve him tea. Then, they started to explain to Yang Kai. It turned out that not long after Yang Kai left, the city lord of Greenwater City personally came to visit Qian Tong and the others. After all, a lineup of 5 third-order Origin returning Realm Masters was not something anyone on Green Mountain Star could ignore. What's more, Greenwater City was just a small city. Besides the City Lord and Vice City Lord, who were both cultivators, there were no other third-order masters in the city. The sudden arrival of Qian Tong and the others had caused the mayor of Greenwater City to feel apprehensive. He did not know what they were up to, so he decided to inquire about the intentions of Qian Tong and the others. After learning that Qian Tong and the others were not cultivators from Green Mountain Star and had only come to participate in the Blood Prison trial, Greenwater City's city lord breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately, he invited Qian Tong and the others to serve as elders of Greenwater City. Qian Tong and the others didn't want to agree at first. For them, Green Mountain Star was just a place to break through and eventually return to Shadowed Star, so there was no need for them to serve as elders of a city here. Agreeing rashly would be irresponsible. But after Greenwater City's city lord explained the stakes and informed Qian Tong and the others that he would also participate in the Blood Prison trial and that everyone could help each other, Qian Tong and the others thought about it for a while before agreeing. However, they did not agree to the position of elder and instead only agreed to be idle honored guests. They had also informed Greenwater City's city lord that they would leave after the Blood Prison trial. Greenwater City's city lord readily agreed. That was why they did not live in an inn and instead settled in a place arranged for them by Greenwater City's city lord. After all, we are outsiders, so this city lord is wary of us, so it is natural for him to want to win us over. However, since he is a native cultivator of Green Mountain Star, he should know much more about the Blood Prison trial than we do, so joining forces with him can be considered a win-win situation, Qian Tong said leisurely. Yang Kai nodded. That's also good. With a local snake taking care of us, at least we won't have to worry about inquiring about information. Several seniors can do as they see fit, but Several seniors should still be careful not to fall for Greenwater City's city lord schemes. After all, it's hard to tell what's in a person's heart. Qian Tong and the others laughed. Mou said, Sect Master Yang can rest assured, although Greenwater City's city lord is a shrewd person, according to my contact with him, his heart is not bad and he shouldn't act rashly. What's more, even if he wants to scheme against us, he is alone, so we have nothing to fear. Then Junior is worrying too much. Yang Kai nodded. Good, since several seniors are safe here, I can leave with peace of mind. How long will it take you to come back? Qian Tong looked at him solemnly. I don't know, at least 1 or 2 years, at most 3 or 4 years. Perhaps I'll be able to return before the blood prison trial and see what's inside. Yang Kai grinned. That would be for the best. With you accompanying us, I believe the trial will be much safer. Qian Tong's spirit shook, obviously very confident in Yang Kai's strength. Everyone else also looked at Yang Kai in high spirits, seemingly eager for him to return as soon as possible. Yang Kai smiled before turning to Qian Yu and asking, Do you want to return to Tongxian realm with me or stay here? Qian Yu showed a look of hesitation. She really didn't know what to choose. Tongxian realm was her and Yang Kai's homeland. It would be a lie to say she didn't miss it. She had been forced to leave all those years ago, and now that she had a chance to return, she naturally wanted to see the land she grew up in. But the scenery was still the same, but the people of that land had long since changed. Everything related to Ice Sect should no longer exist. Perhaps the people there didn't even know that Ice Sect once stood in this vast ice field. I'll stay. Qian Yu's confused and beautiful eyes gradually became firm as she made a choice. Those who are related to me should all be in Tongxian territory. If I go back, it will only add to my sadness. If I stay here, I can continue to inquire about information. Perhaps I can use this time to inquire about some information. Yang Kai nodded slowly, not trying to persuade her. It was reasonable for her to make such a choice. Then I'll leave Qian Yu in your care. Yang Kai turned to Qian Tong and the others. You can rest assured, with these old masters here, no one will dare do anything to her. Heh, Origin Kings are rare everywhere. Qian Tong chuckled. Below the Origin King realm, they were the strongest, and with the 5 of them working together, it was likely that few would dare to cause trouble. This Simo won't say anything more. Sect Master Yang, I wish you a safe journey, return early. Mou said solemnly. Sect Master, be careful. Yang Xiuzhu also looked at Yang Kai. Yang Kai nodded. Yang Kai did not stay in Greenwater City for long. After learning that Qian Tong and the others were safe, he set off the next day and embarked on a journey back to his homeland. Flying out of Green Mountain's star on his star shuttle, Yang Kai released the starship from the sealed world bead, and after everything was ready, the starship quickly sailed into Starfield. Back then, Yang Kai had rushed into Green Mountain Star's territory with just a Saint Realm cultivation and had been separated from his old friends for several dozen years. Yang Kai did not know how they had fared during these past few decades, or if anything had happened to them. Yang Kai's mood fluctuated as he suddenly felt a sense of homesickness. The more time passed, the more obvious this feeling became. Letting the starship return along the path he had taken in the past, Yang Kai felt the changes in his state of mind, allowing the joys and sorrows in his heart to condense and settle. His state of mind had unconsciously become more solid. Looking back, Yang Kai was no longer the brat of the past. Today, he had a powerful second-order origin returning realm cultivation, an invincible existence under the Origin King realm. Leading High Heaven Sect, on Shadowed Star, he was second only to one and above all. Yang Kai's back was straight, like a javelin, his expression proud and cold. Suddenly, as if sensing something, Yang Kai turned his head in a certain direction and released his divine sense at the same time. A beautiful scene was imprinted in his vision. Massive stars, each containing a different type of energy, surrounded a certain part of the star field. At the center of these stars, in the void, something seemed to be calling out to Yang Kai. Even though he was thousands of kilometers away, Yang Kai could still sense it. The chaotic abyss. He had actually arrived here. Yang Kai suddenly came back to his senses and discovered that he had been silently flowing through the river of time, completely forgetting the passage of time. This was the first place Yang Kai had stopped when he first entered Green Mountain Star's territory. This was the most dangerous and unpredictable place in Green Mountain Star's territory. In this seemingly calm and beautiful location, there was an irresistible danger. The chaotic storms were countless times more terrifying than the storms in Green Mountain Star's territory and could even swallow starships. Yang Kai was swallowed up by the chaotic storms here and ended up on the floating continent, where he met masters like Gui Zhu and learned about the wonders of Green Mountain Star's territory. Back then, Yang Kai did not understand the mysteries of this place, but now that his strength had improved and his vision had broadened, he began to understand the mysteries of this place. The gathering of energy that caused one's heart to palpitate could compress space, making it impossible to find, and the eruption of the chaotic storms was the key to opening the door to this space. At the center of the chaotic abyss was a small world. That was the floating continent. When Yang Kai left the floating continent with Gui Zhu and the others, he had left behind a thread of his divine sense in the center of the floating continent. There was an extremely large mass of energy there that Yang Kai suspected was the source of the floating continent. At that time, his strength was too low and he did not dare act rashly. Now that he was passing by this place, the thread of his divine sense immediately formed a connection with him, as if it was calling out to him. Yang Kai did not respond. Although his current strength was completely different from before, Yang Kai was not arrogant enough to try refining this mass of energy. If the source of Star's star was so easy to refine, Gui Zhu would not have been trapped inside for 2,000 years. Yang Kai still needed to wait for his own strength to become stronger before he could attempt this. The starship did not slow down and soon left the chaotic abyss behind and flew straight towards Tongxian realm. Chapter 1551. The sun in the warship was as calm as water in an ancient well, extremely calm. Time passed little by little as Yang Kai comprehended the various secret techniques and cultivated. One day, a disciple knocked on the door and reported, "Sect Master, we've arrived." "We've arrived?" Yang Kai opened his eyes, a hint of excitement flashing across them as his figure flickered, leaving the room and arriving in the hall. At this time, the starship was quietly suspended 1,000,000 kilometers away from a certain cultivation star, no longer moving forward. Many disciples responsible for controlling the starship saw Yang Kai appear and turned to him, waiting for his orders. Without Yang Kai's order, they did not dare to act rashly. However, was this cultivation star the sect master's homeland? Why did it seem like it was on the decline? When the disciples looked towards Tongxian realm, all of them were puzzled. When Yang Kai's eyes landed on Tongxian realm, his face also sank slightly. In the past, his vision was not high enough and he had not seen the other wonders of the star territory, so he did not know what was wrong with Tongxian realm. On the contrary, he used to think that Tongxian realm was extremely rich, or at least that the central capital could not compare to it. But now, after returning from the star territory and experiencing several dozen years of hard work and tempering, he saw the problem with Tongxian realm at a glance. It was old. It was past its prime, and a bleak and sorrowful aura lingered around this cultivation star. Its gray color was like old age spots, highlighting the weakness of this cultivation star. Yang Kai's heart clenched. He did not know that his homeland would be like this before, or rather, he had never realized this problem before. It seemed that on Tongxian realm, the Saint realm was the highest realm and was not without foundation. It was different from Shadowed Star. Shadowed Star's world energy was abundant, but it was suppressed by an invisible world principle, making it impossible for a cultivator to comprehend the mysteries of the Origin King realm. Tongxian realm did not have this kind of world principle suppression, but the world energy was too thin to meet the needs of a cultivator to break through to a higher realm. The Saint realm was the limit. At this moment, Yang Kai understood the root of Tongxian realm's problems. "Sect Master, we?" The disciple next to him turned to look at him and respectfully asked for his opinion. "Go down." Yang Kai waved his hand lightly. The disciple obeyed, controlled the starship, and flew down. The starship passed through the gray area, passing through the atmosphere of Tongxian realm, and finally landed on this backward Martial Dao continent. Yang Kai used by Yang Kai by Yang by Yang by Yang by Yang Kai to determine his current location. The spiritual energy was thin, but it was filled with demonic energy. Tongxian realm was divided into 3 major territories: the human territory, the demon land, and the monster territory. Of these 3 territories, the human territory was the largest, occupying almost 70% of Tongxian realm, followed by the demon land and the monster territory. Unexpectedly, after returning to Tongxian realm, he had come directly to the demon land, a result that surprised Yang Kai a little. Suddenly, Yang Kai raised his head and stared off in a certain direction. As he probed with his divine sense, several life auras suddenly broke into his perception. One of them was a second-order saint who gave Yang Kai a faint sense of familiarity, but as for who it was, he couldn't remember. There were only a few people in the entire demon land who could reach the second-order saint realm, so it should be one of the demon general. The demon race had 4 demon general, all of them saint realm cultivators. The other party had obviously discovered traces of the starship sailing here and hurried over to investigate. It was a good opportunity to inquire about some information, Yang Kai thought to himself, faintly saying, "Wait here, I'm going to see someone." Saying so, his figure flickered and he arrived outside the starship, waiting quietly. For the current Yang Kai, a distance of 100 kilometers could be traversed in an instant. Having cultivated the Tao of space, he could now freely swim through void cracks, ignoring the barriers of space. However, for a second-order Saint Demon General who did not have a suitable flight-type artifact, even if he did his best, it would still take the time it would take to brew a cup of tea to reach the starship. After a cup of tea's worth of time, a large expanse of black chi appeared in Yang Kai's field of vision. This black chi was filled with a violent and bloody aura, and several figures were hidden inside it. The black chi tumbled and soon came to a stop 1,000 meters away from Yang Kai. These figures finally revealed themselves. The one leading them was a burly man with a ferocious expression, holding a spear-like artifact in his hand, giving him a very majestic appearance. At this moment, this man was staring towards Yang Kai in shock, his pair of red eyes filled with shock. He did not see Yang Kai, but the starship behind Yang Kai was extremely familiar. As a demon general, he naturally knew that there was a similar existence deep underground in the demon capital. It was a flight-type artifact that the Bone race had used to travel to Tongxian realm many years ago. Unfortunately, this starship was eventually destroyed by Great Demon God, leaving behind only a pile of scrap metal. It had been kept as a top secret and was sealed several tens of thousands of meters beneath the demon capital. Could it be that someone from the outer star had come to Tongxian realm again? Thinking of this, the demon general was taken aback. The last time something like this happened, Great Demon God had sacrificed himself to save Tongxian realm, a feat that had always been the pride of the demon race. But now, who could turn the tide and save Tongxian realm from this calamity? Perhaps that human race cultivator from back then had such ability. After all, when the Bone race stirred up trouble again, Tongxian realm's 3 clans joined forces under his leadership to defeat them. However, it was said that more than 30 years ago, that human race cultivator had left Tongxian realm and there had been no news of him since. Many distracting thoughts flashed across this demon general's mind, but he did not panic in the face of danger. Understanding the aggressive nature of the demon race, he turned his gaze towards Yang Kai with a dignified expression. The next moment, he showed a shocked expression, as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight, his jaw dropping as he pointed at Yang Kai. You? He couldn't seem to believe his eyes. Demon General Meng go, long time no see. Has Brother Meng been well? Yang Kai grinned at him. You're Yang Shengzhu? Meng Ji's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He had never imagined that the person who had come here on this starship was actually the Holy Master of 9 Heavens' Holy Land. The human race youth who had disappeared more than 30 years ago. When the Bone race revived and the 3 clans joined forces, Meng Gu and Yang Kai had fought side by side, so naturally he remembered his appearance. Now that he heard Yang Kai's voice, he immediately recognized him. This person turned out to be that young man. This was too incredible. This young man had disappeared for more than 30 years, but as soon as he appeared, he owned a starship. Where had he been all these years? Menggu had heard that he had left Tong Xian realm to explore the scattered star territory. Had he succeeded? Thinking so, Menggu couldn't help trembling in shock as his eyes glazed over. It's this Yang. Brother Meng, don't tell me you don't recognize me? Yang Kai chuckled. How could that be? Menggu shook his big head. Although I haven't seen you for many years, this general will never forget Yang Xingzhu's heroic bearing. And how has Zhang Yuan been in recent years? Yang Kai asked again. You're asking about the demon commander's master? Menggu frowned, a trace of dissatisfaction appearing on his face. Zhang Yuan was the demon commander of the demon race, a top master in Tong Xian realm. Even if Yang Kai's strength was extraordinary and he was the master of 9 Heavens Holy Land, in the end, he was still in existence on the same level as the demon commander's master. Whether it was out of courtesy or otherwise, Menggu shouldn't call him by his name. This brat's tone was quite arrogant, acting like an elder asking about a junior, so Menggu was naturally a little annoyed. In a lukewarm tone, Menggu replied, Many thanks for Sect Master Yang's concern. Senior has been well and has been in retreat in the demon capital in recent years. Saying so, Menggu released his divine sense and swept Yang Kai. He wanted to know to what extent this human race youth's cultivation had grown after so many years. If Menggu remembered correctly, this young man should have been a first-order saint when he left, so after a few dozen years, with his aptitude, he should have reached the third-order saint realm. After a single sweep, Meng Ji's face changed greatly. He suddenly discovered that he couldn't see through Yang Kai's depths at all. When his divine sense swept over him, it was like a stone sinking into the sea, unable to cause the slightest ripple. How is this possible? Meng Ji's expression immediately became complicated as his eyes bulged. He was a second-order saint, so even if Yang Kai had really broken through to the third-order saint realm, he couldn't hide from his divine sense. Even the legendary Saint King realm that great demon god had once reached was impossible. Could it be, this little brat has already reached this realm or even higher? Thinking so, Meng Ji's feet began to cramp as his eyes filled with shock. Pursing his lips, he asked dryly, Yang Xingzhu, what realm is he in now? What realm? Yang Kai raised his brow. He was naturally aware of Meng Ji's little movements, but he didn't blame him. The people of the demon race were all like this, each and every one of them was unruly and unruly. Hesitating for a moment, Yang Kai said, I can't tell you what realm I'm in right now, but you'll find out when you have the chance. Right? Go to the demon capital and ask Zhang Yuan to come see me in 9 Heavens Holy Land. I just returned, but I'll be heading to 9 Heavens Holy Land soon. Menggu swallowed hard, the unruly expression on his face gradually converging, like a tamed beast that had submitted to Yang Kai. This time, he was very tactful and didn't pay attention to Kai Yang's arrogance. He faintly guessed that Kai Yang had reached a height that he could never hope to reach. This guess made him both shocked and frightened, but at the same time, he was inexplicably excited. Yang Xingzhu may rest assured, this one will immediately head to the demon capital to inform Senior of this news, Menggu quickly said. Good, there's one more thing. Yang Kai touched his nose. Which direction is 9 Heavens Holy Land? Menggu was stunned and pointed. Many thanks. Yang Kai smiled lightly before his figure flickered and disappeared. A moment later, the dark starship trembled slightly and mysteriously disappeared from Meng Ji's vision. Master, who is that human brat? How dare he act so arrogantly, not putting you in his eyes at all? One of the people from the demon race who had followed Menggu grumbled in dissatisfaction. Chapter 1552. Although the relationship between the 3 clans had become much more harmonious after the Bone Race's resurgence and the 3 clans had joined forces to resist the enemy, that did not mean there were no more disputes, especially when it came to competition for cultivation resources. It was just that there was no longer an atmosphere of life and death enmity between them. The human race did not dare to trespass into the demon land at will. But now, a young human race man had suddenly appeared here, not only not putting Master Mengu in his eyes, but also daring to call out the demon commander by his name. This made the people from the demon race very dissatisfied. If it weren't for Mengu being here, they would likely have immediately rushed up and made this young human race man pay the price. "Shut up!" Mengu shouted. "That person, you can't afford to provoke him, this general can't afford to provoke him, and even senior. I'm afraid you can't afford to provoke him. Don't talk about him behind his back." "What? Senior can't afford to provoke him?" The people from the demon race were shocked, their eyes trembling. "What kind of background does he have?" "His name, you may have heard it before," Mengu frowned. "He is the master of 9 Heavens Holy Land, Yang Kai." The expressions of the people from the demon race immediately changed as they fell silent. Today, in Tongxian Realm, 9 Heavens Holy Land was the dominant force, standing above the 3 clans. There were countless Saint Realm masters in the Holy Land and no other force could compare. However, although 9 Heavens Holy Land had been in the limelight for many years, there had been no news of their holy master. None of them had expected that the young man just now was actually the master of 9 Heavens Holy Land. "The world is about to change," Mungo muttered as he looked at the dusky sky. Soon after, he turned around and hurriedly rushed in the direction of Modu. He had to pass the news of Yang Kai's return to Demon Commander Zhang Yuan as soon as possible. 9 Heavens Holy Land, a natural spirit array formed by the convergence of 9 peaks. In Tongxian Realm, 9 Heavens Holy Land enjoyed a supreme reputation. The Holy Land had countless masters, and although it had not recruited any new disciples these years, its population was still thriving and it did not lack wealth. The reason for this was not only because 9 Heavens Holy Land had a strong influence and close relationship with the other great forces of the human race, but also because of the alchemy techniques here. There were several top alchemy grandmasters guarding this place all year round. When a cultivator came here with materials for alchemy, there was basically no chance of failure. As long as they paid enough for the materials and waited for a few days, they would be able to get a satisfactory elixir. With this income alone, 9 Heavens Holy Land didn't need to worry about a source of cultivation materials. Outside the Holy Land's 9 peaks, there was a long line that stretched for several kilometers. At least 1,000 cultivators with different cultivations were waiting for the alchemists of 9 Heavens Holy Land to perform alchemy for them. From time to time, a new cultivator would join the queue. Although there were many people, there was no chaos. Everyone was doing their part. The latecomers consciously lined up at the back of the line. They did not dare to cut the line just because they were stronger than the others. Anyone who dared to do so had already been taught a lesson. Of the cultivator waiting in line, the earliest one had already been waiting here for a month, but no one showed any signs of impatience, all of them standing there expectantly, waiting for the people from 9 Heavens Holy Land to call them over to hand over their materials. In their boredom, these cultivators were whispering to each other, exchanging information, or talking about interesting stories. Time flew by quickly. On this day, a young man suddenly strolled in from outside the 9 peaks. He had a heroic figure and bright eyes. He looked like a country bumpkin. His eyes rolled around as he looked around and clicked his tongue in wonder. His eyes seemed to be drifting as if he was reminiscing about something. After seeing the long line, this nostalgia became even more obvious. "It's still like this." Yang Kai grinned as he walked forward, looking at the cultivator who came to ask for alchemy with great interest. When he was still in 9 Heavens Holy Land, the scene outside the Holy Land was also like this. Unexpectedly, after a few dozen years, not much had changed here. The only change was that there were more people coming to ask for alchemy. "Hey, little brat, what are you doing?" Suddenly, an angry shout came from the crowd. Yang Kai turned his head and saw a big man glaring at him. Where did this little brat come from? Is he trying to cut the line? "Young man, if you want to live, go to the back and wait obediently. Don't think you're so great, everyone who comes here has to abide by the rules." "Humph, If he dares to cut the line, I'll twist his head off. Little brat, go to the back obediently. If you don't abide by the rules and get caught by the people from 9 Heaven's Holy Land, you'll only be taught a lesson, but if you annoy these people, your end will be very ugly. Before Kai Yong had time to say anything, the crowd began to shout at him, trying to dissuade him from his actions. There were even more people who cast looks of contempt and pity at him. It seemed that Yang Kai's end would be very ugly. I'm not here to ask for alchemy. Yang Kai touched his nose. That's what every person who wants to cut the line says. Little brat, it looks like you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Do you want me to teach you a lesson? The big man who had shouted at Yang Kai before coldly snorted, clenching his fists and banging them against his chest as he glared at Yang Kai. I'm really not here to ask for alchemy. Yang Kai said helplessly. Then what are you here to do? The big man didn't give up, his eyes aggressive, as if Yang Kai wouldn't give up until he gave an explanation. I'm going home, I'm from 9 Heaven's Holy Land. Yang Kai sniffed. The big man looked Yang Kai up and down, a look of disbelief on his face, suddenly beckoning to the side and shouting, Brother, I'll have to trouble you to come here. There was a cultivator who seemed to be patrolling nearby, but when he heard the shout, he immediately rushed over, glanced around and frowned. What's wrong? Is someone trying to break the rules again? Haha, brother, look at this guy, he says he's from your holy land. From what I can see, he's trying to cut the line. Brother, take a look and see if he's from your holy land. The big man pointed to Yang Kai and said to the 9 Heaven's Holy Land disciple. The disciple heard this and turned his eyes to Yang Kai, carefully sizing him up for a moment before shaking his head. I've never seen this person before. On top of that, our Holy Land's disciples have the Holy Land's logo on their clothes. Saying so, he gestured to his chest. Sure enough, this little brat is just spouting nonsense. The big man looked at Yang Kai gloatingly, pretending to be a Holy Land disciple. You're dead. You don't know me? Yang Kai looked at the disciple and asked. Should I know you? The other party didn't answer. Yang Kai gently nodded. You don't look very old, probably just joined the Holy Land not long ago. Who is the elder on duty here today? Hearing this question, the disciple's expression immediately became suspicious, not knowing whether Yang Kai was just spouting nonsense or if he really had some kind of relationship with the Holy Land. Although he grew up in the Holy Land since childhood, he was still only 25 to 26 years old. When Yang Kai was in the Holy Land, he hadn't even been born yet, so naturally he had never seen Yang Kai's face before. Although surprised, the disciple didn't dare neglect and quickly said, It's Elder Shi who is in charge. Elder Shi? Yang Kai's brow furrowed as a figure appeared from the depths of his memory, smiling lightly. Is it Shi Kuan? The disciple was shocked, really not understanding where Yang Kai came from, actually daring to call Elder Shi by his name, and listening to his tone, it seemed he was quite familiar with the elder. Take me to him, he'll recognize me, Yang Kai said casually, but soon changed his mind. Forget it, I'll go by myself. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly disappeared from where he stood. The group of people stared with wide eyes, their faces full of horror. Where is he? Where did that guy run off to? The burly man from before looked around, but couldn't see Yang Kai's figure, and couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He thought he had seen a ghost. The others also had the same expression, and for a moment, a chill ran down their spines. Not far away, in a pavilion, Shi Kuan was sitting cross-legged, as if he was comprehending something. Suddenly, as if sensing something, Shi Kuan quickly opened his eyes and shouted, How dare you? At this moment, he noticed that someone had broken into the pavilion. As an elder of the Holy Land, he was in charge of maintaining order here, and the disciples were not allowed to disturb him without permission. He didn't expect that someone would be so blind as to come here while he was comprehending a secret technique. Shi Kuan was naturally furious. Fortunately, it wasn't a critical moment, otherwise, it was very likely he would have been disturbed and turned into the demon race. With a shout, he raised his eyes and looked in the direction of the commotion. At a glance, Shi Kuan's jaw dropped, and he stood there in a daze. Yang Kai looked at him with a smile. After not seeing you for so many years, Elder Shi's temper seems to have grown. Holy Master? Shi Kun exclaimed. He never expected that the person who came to disturb him would be the Holy Master of the Holy Land, Yang Kai, who had disappeared for several decades. At first sight, Shi Kun could hardly believe his eyes. He rubbed his eyes hard, and when he looked again, he found that the person standing in front of him was indeed the Holy Master. Although they hadn't seen each other for several decades, the Holy Master still looked as young as when he left. The flowing time Great Emperor didn't seem to have left any trace on him. Shi Kun's body suddenly trembled with excitement. Not bad, not bad, you've also reached the Second Order Saint realm. It seems you haven't been idle these past few years. Yang Kai gently nodded, seeing through Shi Kun's realm at a glance. Subordinate Shi Kun greets Holy Master and welcomes Holy Master back to the sect. Shi Kun hurriedly half-knelt on the ground and called out in a low voice, his tone filled with excitement. Get up! Yang Kai waved his hand. Shi Kun got up and stared at Yang Kai in disbelief, as if he was dreaming, pursing his lips and hesitating for a moment before asking, Holy Master, you've really returned? I've returned. How is the Holy Land now? Everything is fine. Holy Master doesn't need to worry, Shi Kun replied quickly. Because of the ups and downs in his mood, his blood was rushing to his head, causing his face to flush red. That's good. Holy Master, you should hurry back to the Holy Land. Since you left, Great Elder and the others have been worried about you day and night. Now that they know you've returned safely, they will be very happy, Shi Kun rubbed his hands and said. Yang Kai nodded, come with me. Saying so, he stretched out his hand and wrapped Shi Kun in his Saint Chi. The next moment, the two disappeared from the pavilion. When Shi Kun's vision was restored, he found that he and Yang Kai had arrived at the inner peak and were greeted by the sight of the Holy Land's 9 peaks. Chapter 1553. Good, nothing seems to have changed. Yang Kai stood mid-air, sweeping the entire Holy Land with his divine sense before nodding with satisfaction. Shi Kun was in a daze, not knowing how he had arrived at the inner peak, but he quickly realized that Yang Kai was the one who had done this. What kind of method was this? It was so bizarre that Shi Kun couldn't help feeling both respect and awe. Suddenly, as if thinking of something, he took a step forward, took a deep breath, and shouted towards the 9 peaks, Holy Master, return to the sect. His shouts reverberated throughout the 9 peaks without end. The entire movement of the 9 peaks seemed to be drowned out by this echo, and a strange, quiet atmosphere appeared in the Holy Land. There was no sound at all. However, a moment later, the 9 peaks were suddenly thrown into chaos. Every peak was in a state of chaos as a large number of rays of light flew out from the various peaks and rapidly rushed over. Inside the alchemy room, Saint-grade alchemist Du Wan was refining a furnace of clear snow pills, a Saint-grade low-rank pill. The person who had come to request this pill was waiting outside the 9 peaks at this moment, so his status was not low, so Du Wan had to personally take action. After spending more than a day, Du Wan was about to complete his task. The alchemy room was now filled with a special cold fragrance. At this moment, Du Wan was carefully controlling the heat as he stared at the pill furnace expectantly, preparing for the final pill condensing process. To the side, Chang Bao sat with a big belly, fat piled up on his face as he stared forward with narrowed eyes, seemingly trying to learn something from Du Wan's refining technique. The expressions of the two Saint-grade alchemists were both solemn and excited. One of them was the manager of Grand Boulder City's Alchemist Guild while the other was the manager of Lightning Flash City's Alchemist Guild. Their identities were both highly respected, but because they had learned a great deal of alchemy knowledge in 9 Heaven's Holy Land and had become Saint-grade alchemists, they had resigned from their positions in the Alchemist Guild and joined 9 Heaven's Holy Land. In addition to these two, there was also Hong Fong He Feng and Kong Ruoyu, all of whom were now Saint-grade alchemists. Tong Xian Realm's alchemy level had experienced a rapid development after Yang Kai left. All of this was due to the generous teachings of the Old Man of Heaven's Keep, Li Rui, and the inspiration of Xia Ningcheng. In the past, Li Rui was the only Saint-grade alchemist in Tong Xian Realm. As the alchemy process reached a critical juncture, Chang Bao's small eyes narrowed even more, a light flashing across them as if he was worried about Du Wan. Even they couldn't guarantee a 100% success rate when refining Saint-grade pills, so the fact that Du Wan's batch of pills had gone so smoothly was a combination of his skill and luck. The more critical the moment was, the more they couldn't afford to be careless. This was the most important moment. But at that moment, an angry shout suddenly came from the outside. Even the alchemy room's barrier was unable to stop this shout as it directly entered the ears of the two Saint-grade alchemists. Du Wan's old hand trembled, and his yuan qi also became chaotic. Immediately after, a light puffing sound came from the pill furnace in front of him. A burnt smell wafted out from the furnace. Du Wan froze in place, his expression extremely ugly. Chang Bao also furrowed his brow. All his efforts had been for naught. That idiot Shikuan is done for. Du Wan would definitely put the blame for the failure of this batch of pills on him. Chang Bao couldn't help gloating in his heart. Old Chang, what was that little brat Shikuan shouting just now? To Chang Bao's surprise, Du Wan didn't immediately become angry and instead asked him this question with a strange look on his face. I didn't hear him clearly, Chang Bao shook his head. Although they had heard what Shikuan had shouted just now, because all of his attention had been focused on the alchemy, Chang Bao hadn't paid much attention to the content of his words. Why did I hear him shout, Holy Master? Du Wan frowned. Holy Master? Chang Bao was stunned, but soon seemed to remember something, and like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, his fat body suddenly became light and nimble as he jumped up from the ground. You mean Holy Master? Nine Heavens Holy Land had only ever had one Holy Master, and that was Yang Kai. Since Yang Kai's departure, the position of Holy Master had been vacant. In the mind of every cultivator in Nine Heavens Holy Land, Yang Kai was the Holy Master. I think I just heard Shikuan shout for Holy Master to return to the sect. Du Wan scratched his head. Are you sure? Chang Bao asked. I'm not sure. The two of them looked at each other for a while, then suddenly rushed out together. Just as they opened the door to the pill room, they saw He Feng, Hong Fong, and Kong Ruo Yu also running out of their respective pill rooms as if their buttocks were on fire. Their speed was not inferior to that of a strong young man. Old fogies, wait for this old master. Chang Bao shouted from behind as he moved his fat body. No one paid him any attention as they all rushed out. On another peak of the 9 peaks, inside a secluded room, the demonic qi was extremely rich. Inside this secluded room, 2 beautiful women were meditating with their eyes closed, one dignified and elegant while the other cold and arrogant, their temperaments completely different. The former was a peak 3rd order saint while the latter was a 2nd order saint. Both of them were wrapped in a thick black demonic qi, giving them a shocking appearance. At this moment, the 2 women seemed to be cultivating some kind of secret technique. When the voice reached them, the 2 women opened their eyes involuntarily, the dignified beauty turning to look at the other woman and frowning slightly. Han Fei, did Shikuan just say, Holy Master returned to the sect? The cold beauty heard this and her tender body trembled, thinking back carefully before gently nodding. 4 pairs of eyes met and the 2 pairs of beautiful eyes suddenly burst forth with astonishing brilliance. No longer in the mood to cultivate any kind of secret technique, the 2 tender bodies wrapped in black demonic qi rushed out of the secluded room and flew out. A similar scene played out across the 9 peaks. The entire 9 peaks, for several dozen years, had never been so lively. These existences, who were usually worshipped by countless people of Tongxian realm, seemed to have lost all sense of propriety at this moment and transformed into reckless youths. The Holy Land's great elder Su Hui, while rushing out, directly smashed through the palace he lived in, knocking down several walls and nearly collapsing it. When Elder Yu Ying was rushing out, she knocked over several of her favorite vases. Saintess and Ling even rushed out of the bathroom while taking a bath and hurriedly put on some clothes, not even drying her hair. All of this was because of a single sentence that echoed throughout the 9 peaks. The Holy Master had returned to the sect. Everyone wanted to know whether this news was true or not, Everyone wanted to see the face they had not seen for several dozen years, so they all rushed out of their respective places and rushed towards the source of the voice. A stream of light quickly flew over and gathered in front of Yang Kai. Everyone revealed themselves, and after seeing Yang Kai's face clearly, all of them showed looks of pleasant surprise, some of them even crying tears of joy, unable to restrain themselves. The Holy Land's great elders, Du Wan, Chang Bao, and the other alchemy grandmasters, as well as the great commanders of the ancient demon clan, had all gathered together. There were nearly 10 Saint Realm masters present. This was a force strong enough to sweep across all of Tong Xian Realm, an existence no one dared to underestimate. It was precisely because of their existence that Nine Heavens Holy Land's supreme prestige in Tong Xian Realm had been created. Yang Kai's eyes swept over the familiar faces one by one, his heart filled with warmth as a brilliant smile bloomed on his face. After several dozen years, his old friends were still the same. There was nothing better than this news. It's really Holy Master. Holy Master is back, he's really back. Cries of surprise came from the crowd. Everyone was beaming with joy, and their eyes were shining with excitement. Subordinate Su Hui, together with the Holy Land's elders, greets Holy Master and welcomes Holy Master's return to the sect. Su Hui was an old and prudent man, so although he was extremely excited, he didn't mess up his etiquette and quickly calming himself down as he called out. The several Holy Land elders quickly saluted. "You don't need to be so polite, I'm simply returning home." Yang Kai waved his hand and an invisible force lifted everyone up. "Master!" On the other side, Great Commander Li Rong of the ancient demon clan called out in a choked voice. Another great commander, Han Fei, stood next to her, her eyes also red. Yang Kai had inherited the mantle of Great Demon God, so for the ancient demon clan who had served Great Demon God for generations, Yang Kai was their great master. Even the current demon commander Zhang Yuan couldn't compare to him in this regard. So even if Yang Kai was not in Nine Heavens Holy Land, they had still been waiting here. In fact, for the ancient demon clan, the demon land was the most suitable place for them to live, but for the sake of Yang Kai, Li Rong had resolutely allowed the ancient demon clan to settle in Nine Heavens Holy Land. Looking at Yang Kai's face, Li Rong's heart trembled. When Yang Kai left, she had asked to follow him, vowing to protect him with her life, but at that time, Yang Kai didn't even know what his future held, so how could he dare take Li Rong with him? As such, she had been left behind. But over the past several dozen years, Li Rong had been worried about Yang Kai day and night. Every time she thought about how Yang Kai was out there, she couldn't sleep or eat in peace, hating herself for not insisting on her master to wander alone. Her heart was filled with self-blame as she had been tormented over the years. Now, seeing Yang Kai return safely, she wept tears of joy. "Don't cry, cheer up, I'm back." Yang Kai chuckled and comforted her. "Yes." Li Rong pursed her red lips and nodded. She would unconditionally satisfy all of Yang Kai's requests. "Little brat, you really came back?" At that moment, a surprised cry suddenly came from the side. Yang Kai turned his head and saw that it was Meng Wuya. After not seeing him for several dozen years, Meng Wuya still looked the same, wearing an extremely plain outfit. If he were to blend into a crowd, those who didn't know him would probably think he was an old man with one foot in the grave, never thinking he was actually a third-order saint. "Treasurer Meng, I trust you've been well since we last met." Yang Kai smiled. Good. Little brat seems to be living quite comfortably, this old master can rest assured." Meng Wuya nodded heavily, a gratified smile appearing on his face. It could be said that Meng Wuya had watched Yang Kai grow up. In the past, he had hidden his identity and stayed in High Heaven Pavilion as a contribution hall treasurer. He and Yang Kai were the first to meet, and because of Xia Ning Chang, the two of them had a close relationship. So, after seeing Yang Kai return after several dozen years, Meng Wuya felt like a big stone had been lifted from his heart. His concern for Yang Kai was not inferior to anyone else's. Chapter 1554. Yang Kai glanced around and Meng Wuya seemed to know what he was looking for, Chuckling meaningfully and taking the initiative to speak, Ning Chang is currently at a critical juncture in her retreat, so it's not convenient for her to see you, just wait for her to come out. And, as for your grandmaster, he doesn't live in Nine Heavens Holy Land, he lives with your Yang family and the people from the central capital in War Spirit Temple, 1,000 kilometers away. Understood, I'll visit them myself later. Yang Kai took a deep breath and calmed his mood slightly. When he brought his family and friends from the central capital to Tongxian Realm, Yang Kai didn't have enough space in Nine Heavens Holy Land, so he settled them in the ruins of War Spirit Temple and Shattering Mystical Palace 1,000 kilometers away. These two forces had once been enemies with Yang Kai, but in the end, they were both destroyed by Yang Kai, leaving behind their sects and foundations, allowing the people from the central capital to take advantage of them. Over the past several dozen years, the people from the central capital had been able to develop steadily there, and with the protection of Nine Heavens Holy Land, it had become a paradise. Old acquaintances met again, creating a lively atmosphere. The Holy Master returning to the sect was a joyous occasion for Nine Heavens Holy Land. Everyone welcomed Yang Kai back to the main peak, and Great Elder Su Hui ordered a grand banquet to be held to welcome Yang Kai back. All of the Holy Land's leading figures were present. No one asked where Yang Kai had been or what he had done over the past several dozen years. All they knew was that Yang Kai had returned safely and was sitting in front of them. That was enough. The atmosphere of the banquet was noisy as everyone toasted and toasted each other. Even women like Li Rong and Han Fei were intoxicated from the wine. Tonight was destined to be a sleepless night. The banquet began at sunset and lasted until early morning. Most of the people present had already climbed down. Only Su Hui remained sober. Yang Kai called him out. "What is Holy Master's command?" Su Hui asked respectfully. "How have the Hu sisters been these years?" Looking at the sunrise of Tongxian Realm, Yang Kai asked casually. Reporting to Holy Master, the Hu sisters have been safe and sound these past few years and have been cultivating diligently in Twin Spirit Pavilion. With the careful guidance of Wu Fa and Wu Tian, their growth has been extremely fast. In recent years, the two sisters have both broken through to the Saint Realm and become the rising stars of Tongxian Realm. Yang Kai gently nodded. The friends and relatives Yang Kai had brought from the central capital were basically all placed in the ruins of War Spirit Temple and Shattering Mystical Palace. Only the Hu sisters, because they had cultivated the Twin Chi shared spirit divine art and inherited the legacy of the founder of Twin Spirit Pavilion, were brought to Twin Spirit Pavilion by the two current pavilion masters. Given the talent of the two sisters and the miraculous divine technique of the spirit and branches connected by spirit, it was only natural that they would enter the Saint Realm after a few decades. This was only because Tongxian Realm's world energy was thin. If they were placed on Shadowed Star, their achievements would likely be far greater. They were definitely characters who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Chu Changfeng and Fang Tianzhong. Send a message to Hu Jiao Air and Hu Mei Air and tell them to come to Nine Heavens Holy Land, Yang Kai ordered. Yes. Su Hui responded quickly, but immediately wore a strange expression as he said, "If they learn that Holy Master has returned to the sect, I'm afraid there is no need for an invitation, they will rush over." Yang Kai glanced over at him while Su Hui laughed dryly. He did not know if this gray aura was related to Xia Ning Chang's inner chi and becoming the demon race, but this gray aura was definitely not something Xia Ning Chang had created himself. It was some kind of foreign object that had somehow attached itself to his little senior sister's body. It was not like a soul because Xia Ning Chang showed no signs of being possessed. Then what is it? Yang Kai frowned. Even with his knowledge and experience, he could not figure out what this gray aura was. With a loud hissing sound, the gray aura moved back and forth, like a beast trapped in a cage, unable to escape. Suddenly, Yang Kai raised his brow and showed a look of surprise. He felt Xia Ning Chang's life and soul brand from this gray aura. In other words, Xia Ning Chang knew of its existence and had refined it. However, Yang Kai still felt that this gray aura was not a good thing. It seemed to have some kind of inexplicable connection with his little senior sister, And this connection caused his little senior sister to become just like this gray aura. This discovery made Yang Kai's heart sink. If his judgment was not wrong, then this gray aura and his little senior sister should have an intertwined relationship. If he rashly destroyed it, his little senior sister would most likely die. Inside the hall, everyone's expression became excited as they all looked towards Yang Kai in surprise. Really? How? There are so many of us, can you take all of us? Everyone began asking questions, obviously interested in Yang Kai's story. They all wanted to leave this backward world as soon as possible and go to a place where the world energy aura was richer, just like Yang Kai, to see a wider world and fascinating wonders. Hey, where did it go? Xia Ningchang suddenly realized that something was wrong. The mysterious energy that had always existed in her body had disappeared at this moment. Chapter 1557. After carefully asking Xia Ningchang, Yang Kai learned that she had obtained that mass of gray qi by pure coincidence. When Yang Kai left Tong Xian realm, Xia Ningchang was extremely lonely. In order to pass the time, she could only sit in Nine Heavens Holy Land and refine pills for others every day. She had the sacred spirit medicine body, so all she needed to do was refine pills. While a large number of pills were being refined, Xia Ningchang's own cultivation also increased at a terrifying speed, without any bottlenecks. In just a few years, she had broken through to the Saint Realm. Catching up to the realm Yang Kai was at when he left. Later, one day, she was bored and secretly went out to travel alone. As a result, she obtained that mass of gray qi in a hidden underground cave. From then on, her cultivation skyrocketed, crossing the Saint Realm and breaking through to the Saint King Realm in 10 years, and then reaching the Second Order Saint King Realm in another 10 years. Yang Kai was dumbfounded. Such a terrifying speed was something that even the great sects and great forces on Shadowed Star might not necessarily be able to achieve. But in this barren Tong Xian realm, little senior sister had accomplished such a feat. The reason why Xia Ningchang could achieve what she did today was really related to that mass of gray qi. After you obtained it, did you feel any discomfort? Yang Kai asked seriously. Not too much discomfort. Xia Ningchang thought about it carefully. It's just that sometimes I suddenly feel a little tired, and sometimes I become very lazy, not even wanting to think, it's like I'm getting old. Yang Kai gently nodded. Junior brother, is there something wrong with it? Xia Ningchang asked. I'm not sure whether it's a blessing or a curse. Yang Kai slowly shook his head, a little worried. Then what is it? I don't know, but I have a guess. If this guess is true, then this is little senior sister's opportunity. Yang Kai looked at Xia Ningchang with burning eyes, his expression slightly excited. That vague conjecture made his blood boil. Right, do you remember where you obtained it? Xia Ningchang nodded. Take me to see it. Yang Kai said, reaching out and grabbing Xia Ningchang's slender waist, summoning his star shuttle, and transforming into a streak of light as they disappeared from Nine Heavens Holy Land. Following the route little senior sister had shown them, Yang Kai and her flew through the air at an extremely fast speed. After a day, Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang had arrived at a mountain range. Xia Ningchang's memory was very good. Even after more than 20 years, she still clearly remembered the place where she had found the gray qi. Soon, the two arrived at a mountain valley. Yang Kai disembarked his star shuttle and walked towards a certain place with Xia Ningchang. Not long after, a deep and dark cave appeared in front of them. Xia Ningchang pointed to the cave and said, Junior brother, I went in from here and then went to the lowest level where I obtained that thing. Let's go in and have a look. Yang Kai grinned. Since he was bold, he wasn't afraid. Pulling Xia Ningchang's hand, he entered the cave. The cave was extremely dark and the air was clear. It wasn't humid and was instead extremely dry. As soon as they entered the cave, Yang Kai raised his brow. He felt a rich world energy aura from this cave. Of course, this kind of richness was only relative to other places in Tongxian realm. It couldn't be compared to Shadowed Star or other famous stars in Tongxian territory. However, this was still very rare. Moreover, the deeper they went, the richer the world energy aura became. Yang Kai's expression became excited as he suddenly realized that his guess was not far from the truth. This kind of abnormal world energy aura was a reflection of his guess. If this origin in front of us goes out, Tongxian realm will be gone, and it will become a dead star. Her pretty face seemed a little tired, but her beautiful eyes were filled with excitement. Junior brother, I'm ready. Then let's begin. Yang Kai looked at her with scorching eyes. Xia Ningchang nodded gently, got up, and walked towards the bottom of the abyss. Arriving at the edge of the abyss, she stared down at the huge gray flames leaping about below and opened her mouth, seemingly talking to herself, but also seemingly communicating with the star source. If I can give up my life so that you can see the light again, so that the entire world will not be dead, then I am willing to do so. But if not, please accept me, merge with me, and let us fight side by side. I will work hard to become stronger as soon as possible so that you can regain your vitality. The huge gray flames below remained motionless, showing no reaction. But soon, with a sizzling sound, the gray flames began to sway left and right. As they swayed, the huge gray flames slowly blossomed like a flower bud, as if they were opening their arms to Xia Ningchang. Xia Ningchang showed a smile on her face and softly said, "Thank you." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly jumped down. Yang Kai's expression changed greatly. This result was completely beyond his expectations. He had not expected his little senior sister to be so resolute. By the time he reacted and wanted to stop her, it was already too late. Rushing to the edge of the abyss, Yang Kai looked down and saw that the huge gray flames had already closed, completely submerging his little senior sister. An unimaginable force erupted from below and sent Yang Kai flying, slamming him into a rock wall. Even if it was the star source, Yang Kai could not approach it. It obviously did not want Yang Kai to interfere with the entire process. Yang Kai climbed up from the ground, his expression uncertain. Fortunately, he could feel his little senior sister's aura floating in the depths below. He waited with apprehension. Now that he could not interfere with anything, he could only wait for the result to appear. Suddenly, a mysterious aura spread out from the depths of the abyss, calming Yang Kai's agitated mood. He frowned and silently sensed this mysterious aura. He seemed to have seen something. He quickly closed his eyes and carefully examined it. The vast star territory was dark and boundless, without the slightest light. This seemed to be an era without light, without life. This was an extremely ancient era, an era that could not be traced back. Yang Kai looked around but could not see anything. He could not even perceive his own existence. Time passed little by little in this desolate and lonely place. After who knows how many tens of thousands of years, in the dark and boundless star territory, a light suddenly burst out. The light was very small at first, but soon spread out like a star. The entire star territory was shaken by the impact of this huge energy. Meteorites of various sizes were colliding in all directions. Then, they gathered together and fused together under a mysterious force, becoming a single entity. Sand gathered to form a tower. Gradually, stars appeared in the star territory. This was a newly born star. There were no energy fluctuations, and the surroundings were still dark. It drifted with the waves like a helpless child, wandering in the boundless star field. There was no destination, and it had forgotten where it came from. After 1,000,000 years, it suddenly came to a bright world. There was a huge sun in this world, and it was constantly emitting a warm light. It stopped and began to revolve around the sun star. Gradually, all living things began to recover. On its land, some dark green plants grew, and some flowers and grass grew. After millions of years of evolution, finally, some sentient beings began to appear on these stars. They were the oldest living beings, the oldest race. They eagerly learned, grew, and became stronger in their daily lives. Let's go, many people are waiting for us. Yang Kai smiled lightly before pulling Xia Ning Chang in a certain direction. In his perception, there were countless familiar life auras waiting for his arrival. In a certain hall of 9 Heavens Holy Land, it was almost overcrowded. Here, the human, monster, and demon clans had gathered. Almost all the masters of Tong Xian realm had gathered here. This was an extremely terrifying force. Although there were many people present, the scene was extremely quiet. Only from time to time, someone would cast their eyes towards the outside of the hall, as if waiting for someone to arrive. There was only one person on Tong Xian realm who could make the masters of the human, monster, and demon clans gather here and wait for so long. The Holy Master of 9 Heavens Holy Land. Chapter 1560. This is outrageous. Meng Wuya grit his teeth, his heart filled with hatred as he angrily slapped the armrest of his chair. He thought that Yang Kai and Xia Ning Chang were so engrossed in their love that they had forgotten the time. It had already been more than a month, yet the two of them still hadn't appeared, causing the masters of the 3 clans to wait here in boredom. Meng Wuya felt ashamed to face these guests. He had guarded Xia Ning Chang for so many years, teaching her with all his heart, and was Xia Ning Chang's only family. But now, as soon as Yang Kai returned, he had snatched his precious disciple away from him. Meng Wuya knew that this time he had truly snatched her away. In the future, in Xia Ning Chang's mind, he would likely have to take a back seat, causing him to feel a little sour. Amidst this sourness, there was also a hint of sweetness. His disciple had waited alone for 30 years, but she had not waited in vain. That little bastard Yang Kai had finally returned. This feeling was quite wonderful. Meng Wuya shook his head, his heart filled with mixed feelings. Down below, the several monster race great seniors and the demon general of the demon race stared at each other from a distance. The masters of the 2 races sat on opposite sides, their gazes clashing with each other, creating a subtle atmosphere that seemed to fill the air. Although the 3 clans had joined forces once 30 years ago, in order to compete for cultivation resources, there had been a lot of friction between the 3 clans. Among them, the friction between the monster race and the demon race was the most serious. Fortunately, the monster race great seniors and the demon general knew how to restrain themselves and did not take action personally, otherwise, the conflict would have definitely escalated. It was just the little brats below fighting, so it didn't really matter. However, not being able to see each other for so long was one thing, but now that they had come to 9 Heavens Holy Land together and had been waiting for more than a month in boredom, Meng Wuya felt that he was faintly unable to suppress the hostility between the masters of the 2 races. If it weren't for him, Ling Tai Su and Chu Ling Xiao, the 3 top human race Saint Realm masters, guarding this place, these wild fellows would likely have already started fighting. What a headache. That little bastard has fallen into the land of tenderness and doesn't care about the suffering of these old men. At this moment, Meng Wuya was cursing Yang Kai in his heart. What they feared had come true. It was unknown which great sage of the Yao clan or which devil general of the demon clan had lost their minds, but the people below were actually in an uproar. At first, there were only 2 people arguing, but the situation became more and more intense. All the great sages and devil generals spoke up to help their own people. The situation was a little chaotic. In the end, even Thunder Dragon Great Senior and Demon Commander Zhang Yuan were dragged into this mess. Thunder Dragon, This senior has been in retreat these past few years, but has not been able to find a suitable opportunity to verify these results. Today, why don't we use this precious place to exchange pointers? Zhang Yuan looked at Thunder Dragon Great Senior with a smile, his eyes filled with aggressive fighting intent. Good, it just so happens that this king has had some gains these past few years and was worried about not being able to find an opponent. I have long heard that Brother Zhang Yuan's profound heavenly seal is unparalleled, and even Senior Meng suffered a loss against it. This king would like to experience it. Thunder Dragon smiled lightly, not showing any fear. Don't drag this old master into this. Meng Huiya suddenly became unhappy. However, it was precisely because this was not allowed that in many places, love unions between different races would eventually lead to separation and even the death of both parties. It was an inspiring and tragic legend. Yang Kai did not think too much about it. After drinking a few cups of wine, he returned to the side room. After exhorting Xia Ningchang, who was refining pills, he went straight to the city gate. According to the owner of the inn, the maidservants in the palace would be purchasing supplies in the next few days. Yang Kai was going to wait and see if he could find a suitable person to pass a message to Shanqing Luo. No wonder it was said that even a second-order origin returning realm cultivator would flee upon seeing a thunder flame flying lizard. This ball of fire alone was not something an ordinary origin returning realm cultivator could resist. As the terrifying ball of fire approached, Yang Kai simply stood there, as if he was unaware of the danger. It wasn't until the ball of fire was right in front of him that he suddenly stretched out his hand and tried to grab it. Courting death. Many cultivator who saw this thought in their hearts. How could the attack of a thunder flame flying lizard be so easy to deal with? This little brat seemed a bit out of his mind, actually trying to resist it with his physical body. No wonder he dared to confront me Tian. But what happened next shocked everyone. When Yang Kai's big hand grabbed the ball of fire, he was not directly burned to ashes as everyone had expected. Instead, the ball of fire let out a light crackling sound as it touched his hand. An extremely mysterious fluctuation of power spread out and disappeared in a flash. The terrifying ball of fire was like a deflated balloon, shrinking at an extremely fast speed before finally disappearing. Yang Kai was completely unscathed. A series of gasps rang out. Mi Tian finally sat up straight slowly and pushed aside the woman who was half lying on his lap, a look of determination flashing across his eyes. Good, a second-order origin returning realm cultivator. Mi Tian grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. No wonder you dared act so arrogantly, it turns out you have some skill. The moment Yang Kai attacked, he saw through Yang Kai's cultivation. A second-order origin returning realm master was not weak on Monster Emperor Star, not to mention that he was only a human. Monster Star was dominated by the monster race, and although it was rich in materials and world energy, it was rare for an origin returning realm master to emerge from the human race. Those with such aptitude had long been strangled in the cradle. It was impossible for the monster race to allow the human race to grow. They left the human race to survive in this crevice only because they fancied the various unique talents of the human race, so how could they allow the human race to have the opportunity to turn the tables? So, after realizing that Yang Kai was a second-order origin returning realm cultivator, Mi Tian immediately became interested and, standing on top of the beast carriage, waved his hand, and coldly snorted, "Kill him." The two ninth-order monster beasts immediately went berserk, standing upright and opening their mouths, flames and lightning leaping from them. The city gate was in chaos as most of the cultivator hurriedly fled. Yang Kai laughed. Two beasts dare act presumptuously. With a flash of golden light, the two golden blood threads, under the control of Yang Kai, shot out like arrows towards the thunder flame flying lizards. Chapter 1570. Stop right there. Ma Gana was furious, and the moment Yang Kai moved, he fiercely threw out a punch to intercept Yang Kai's advance. With a flash of purple light, Yang Kai summoned his purple shield and easily blocked this blow. Without stopping, Yang Kai hurriedly rushed over to the other side. He had a bad feeling about this, so how could he waste time here? His figure flickered and a burst of space force erupted from his body, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Ma Gana and Mi Tian were stunned on the spot. They did not see how Yang Kai had left just now. Their eyes and divine sense had clearly been locked onto him, but the other party had easily escaped. The two monster race masters couldn't help wearing dignified expressions as they exchanged a glance again before rushing towards the source of this energy. They also wanted to know what was going on over there and why such strange energy fluctuations were being emitted. Shimmering Moon City, in front of a certain inn, many cultivators had gathered. These cultivators were attracted by the strangeness of this place, both from the human race and the monster race. At this moment, all of them were standing on the street in front of the inn, pointing and whispering to one another. When Yang Kai arrived, he glanced up at the sky and showed a helpless and bitter smile. That ominous feeling of his had indeed been verified. The owner of the inn was also standing in front of the inn, his waist hunched and his hands tucked into his sleeves. Like most people, he was looking up at the sky with a complicated expression, his eyes flashing as if he was trying to discern something. When Yang Kai arrived, he immediately noticed this. Quickly waving to Yang Kai, he called out, "Young man, come here." Yang Kai glanced at him before rushing over and saying apologetically, "Old sir, I'm afraid I've caused you some trouble." The old man chuckled and shook his head. "This old man's trouble is nothing, but I'm afraid your troubles are much bigger." Saying so, he glanced faintly at City Lord Ma Gana and Mi Tian, the two monster race masters who had just arrived, the corners of his mouth twitching slightly as he added, "It seems that your troubles aren't limited to the one in the inn." Hee hee. Yang Kai laughed dryly, not knowing what to say. If it was only Ma Gana and Mi Tian who were targeting him, Yang Kai was not afraid at all. At most, he could just use his space secret technique and take his little senior sister away. Monster Star was so big, how could there not be a place for them to hide? Furthermore, below the Origin King realm, he was not afraid of anyone. If a fight really broke out, Yang Kai dared to turn the entire shimmering moon city upside down. But now, the phenomenon before his eyes gave him an extreme headache. After arriving here, he could tell at a glance that this strange phenomenon was caused by his little senior sister. Xia Ningchang had been staying in the inn for the past few days, living in seclusion. He had been using all kinds of materials to refine elixirs to improve his cultivation. Yang Kai did not disturb her. Who would have thought that in this kind of place, little senior sister would actually be able to concoct such an amazing pill? Yang Kai had experienced this before, so he could tell that this phenomenon was clearly a sign of a pill forming pill clouds. When he was on Rainfall Star, he had refined a fire attribute spirit pill that formed pill clouds and used it to treat Shuiyu, who had been injured by the profound Yin sunflower water. This scene was very similar to the one in front of him. Yang Kai had only ever produced a single spirit pill that had formed pill clouds so far. He also knew that pill clouds were something that could only be encountered by chance. Unlike pill veins, with his alchemy skills, he could more or less control the formation of pill veins. But how to make a pill form pill clouds, he had no clue at all. Although he didn't like Mi Tian's style very much, it was undeniable that joining forces with him now was the best choice. After all, Bahi's reputation was too strong, and if he was alone, he wouldn't have the courage to oppose Bahi. As for obtaining the spirit pill, this was Shimmering Moon City, his territory, so how could Mi Tian compete with him? Now that there were so many people outside, including Yang Kai, she immediately understood how much pressure Yang Kai had endured for her during the alchemy process. What are you talking about? Thanks to senior sister's blessings, we can quickly enter the palace, Yang Kai grinned. He took her little hand, bringing her over to Bahi's side. The corners of Mi Tian's eyes twitched as he glared at Yang Kai with even more hatred. It was as if his exclusive property had been touched. A woman? Ma Guna was dumbfounded. The moment Xia Ningchang appeared, the countless monster race cultivator were dumbfounded. They never expected that the alchemy grandmaster in the inn would be a woman. And such a beautiful and pure woman at that. So young. In their imaginations. To be called a grandmaster. A person who could create such a scene in alchemy would definitely be an old man, or at the very least, an elderly person. How could they have known that reality would be so different from their imagination? Magana could hardly believe his eyes and couldn't help turning his eyes to Bahi. There's no need to doubt it, she is the grandmaster from the inn, and she came with that human boy, Bahi said lightly. Hearing this, Magana was convinced and quickly stepped forward, cupped his fists and said, Shimmering Moon City Lord Magana greets Grandmaster. Grandmaster has worked hard. With a kind smile on his face, he appeared very cordial. Xia Ningchang was a little flustered, but soon calmed down and gracefully returned the greeting, softly saying, City Lord is too polite, this young woman really does not deserve the title of Grandmaster. Her voice was clear and sweet, dazzling the countless monster race cultivators present. Such pure and moving beauty, such a beautiful voice, and proficient in alchemy, such a human. Not to mention the difference in status between the human race and monster race, Magana was willing to risk his life to pursue her. What a pity! Looking at Yang Kai holding Xia Ningchang's hand, every monster race cultivator couldn't help glaring at him with jealousy, as if they couldn't wait to turn into thousands of sharp arrows and stab Yang Kai full of holes to vent their hatred. Xia Ningchang's modesty made Ma Guna laugh heartily and quickly said, "Right, this young lady, let me introduce you, this is my monster race's strongest master below the Origin King realm. N, the former first general under Red Moon Tribal Lord Master, Ba He." "Greetings, Senior Ba He." Xia Ningchang bowed again. Ba He chuckled and said, "Young lady need not be so polite. It is this Ba He's honor to witness such a grand event." He still had a request to make of Xia Ningchang, so he didn't dare to put on too much airs. "This is the young Lord of Thousand Eyes Tribal Lord Master, young Master Mi Tian." Ma Guna pointed to Mi Tian and introduced him. Mi Tian took a step forward and put on a gentle and polite appearance. Mi Tian is fortunate to be able to meet young Lady Tian's face. Xia Ningchang gently nodded but didn't say anything. She didn't know why, but she felt that although this Mi Tian's performance in front of her was perfect, she couldn't help feeling a sense of vigilance. Yang Kai sneered to the side. "Young lady, you refined a spirit pill a few days ago. I wonder if that spirit pill?" Ma Guna looked at Xia Ningchang expectantly, wondering if she had succeeded. Ba He also turned his attention to her. Xia Ningchang frowned and turned to look at Yang Kai. She didn't want to show the results of her hard work to everyone. "Take it out, whether we can enter the palace or not will depend on that spirit pill." Yang Kai whispered in her ear, this intimate gesture causing the little senior sister's tender body to tremble and her delicate earlobes to turn pink. However, since Yang Kai had said so, of course, she wouldn't hide anything anymore and summoned a jade bottle into her palm. Chapter 1583. That little brat Shuel Yen's flood dragon transformation has reached its peak. In Chiyu's palace, she muttered to herself softly as she became more and more attentive to the movements coming from her loft. As one of the 10 great tribal lords, of course, she wouldn't run over to watch the battle like Shanqing Luo and Yu Xiong. Doing so would be far too degrading, but with her powerful divine sense, it was not a problem for her to secretly peek and not worry about being discovered. To be honest, the battle between Yang Kai and Shuel Yen really made her eyes light up. Who was Shuel Yen? He was the son of Blood Flood Dragon Tribal Lord, the successor that Blood Flood Dragon Tribal Lord had cultivated with all his strength. He was the future master of Blood Flood Dragon territory, yet even with his powerful Third Order origin returning realm cultivation, he was still unable to defeat Yang Kai. If Yang Kai could fight evenly with an ordinary Third Order origin returning realm cultivator, he would already be considered a heaven-defying genius, but his opponent was Shuel Yen. Chiyu had never expected that Yang Kai, as a human, could actually force Shuel Yen to use his Flood Dragon transformation in a battle of physical strength. Even among the experts of the demon race, there were very few who could do this. Yang Kai had done it as a human. This kind of thing had never happened on Monster Star before. The human cultivator on Monster Star was suppressed by the monster race and the cultivation resources were scarce. Even origin returning realm masters were rare, let alone someone who could fight head-on with the son of Blood Flood Dragon Tribal Lord. Chiyu was shocked as she secretly blamed herself for not being able to see the true strength of Yang Kai. However, she didn't know what his achievements in the other territories were. If his overall strength was really good, he was worthy of Shanqing Luo. If that were the case, it wouldn't be impossible for her to accomplish this good deed. In this way, not only would she be able to make Shanqing Luo submit, but she would also be able to gather a powerful ally, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. After what happened with Ba He 200 years ago, Chiyu no longer dared to oppose such a thing. She was afraid of arousing Shanqing Luo's disgust and repeating Ba He's mistakes. I hope you won't disappoint me. With that in mind, Chiyu hid his divine sense around the battlefield and paid attention to the situation there. Outside the attic, Yang Kai frowned. He stared at Shuel Yen with a strange expression. At this moment, blood refinement. Its appearance was savage and terrifying. Its exposed skin was covered in blood-red scales, and its entire body seethed with a red glow while its battle-intent soared. He saw the strange look on Yang Kai's face. Laughing loudly, he said, "Human, don't tell me you're scared? If you're scared, it's not too late to beg for mercy. Do you only know how to talk big?" Yang Kai curled his lips, and the strange look on his face became even more intense. The moment Shuel Yen displayed his Flood Dragon transformation, Shuel Yen's expression changed drastically. Yang Kai felt a surge of energy in his body begin to stir, as if it wanted to rush out of his body uncontrollably. This made him extremely surprised. After figuring out what kind of power was causing this, Yang Kai felt relieved. Yang Kai did not allow this mysterious power to erupt and instead suppressed it. Suddenly, a 5-colored light filled his body, and this 5-colored light seemed to have a mind of its own, wrapping around his body and roaming about. Yang Kai's momentum, which was not weak to begin with, soared in an instant. What is this? Ba He was shocked and stretched his neck to look at Yang Kai. Damn, he really isn't using his full strength. This guy is too terrifying. Yu Xiong's eyes bulged as a look of disbelief filled his face. Chapter 1586. However, although you have the power of the divine dragon source, you don't seem to know how to use it, wasting such a great opportunity. Qiyu looked at Yang Kai mockingly. That's why Shui Lian was able to take back his monster core so easily. If not for that, he wouldn't even be alive right now. A trace of embarrassment appeared on Yang Kai's face. This so-called divine dragon source was something he obtained from the Heaven's Cave inheritance with Su Yen when he was still in High Heaven Pavilion. Many years later, Yang Kai learned that this was the inheritance left behind by the two founders of Tong Xian Realm's Dragon Phoenix Palace. But over the years, Yang Kai had never used it for anything. Only when he was dual cultivating with Su Yen did the golden dragon tattoo on his body become active. Qiyu saying that he had wasted such a great opportunity was not wrong. Without even mentioning that each of the divine spirits from ancient times had a divine technique that could split the heavens and earth, each of them being the rulers of the monster race, with the dragon and phoenix being the most powerful. However, for some unknown reason, these ancient holy spirits all disappeared at a certain time. There are rumors that a great battle broke out between them, and 90% of the ancient holy spirits have fallen. There are also rumors that they have gone into hiding. As for the real situation, no one knows. After the disappearance of the ancient divine spirits, other powerful demon clans took over the dominant position. These demon clans are all known as the Ancient Mutants, or the Savage Mutants. Blood Flood Dragon, Heavenly Moon Demon Spider, Nine Nether Cheong Chi, they all belonged to this category. Although the Savage Xenogeniacs only appeared after the Holy Spirits, some of the powerful Savage Xenogeniacs were not inferior to the Holy Spirits, and some were even stronger. Moreover, some of these savage variants still exist today. Of course, these are bloodlines that have been passed down from generation to generation, not really from ancient times. Shui Lian's bloodline and Qing Luo's source both belong to savage variants, right? Yang Kai asked modestly. Qiyu nodded. That's why this queen said that Qing Luo's future achievements will be brighter than mine. What she has is a complete source, unlike this queen who only inherited a faint bloodline. We can be considered family. You can also say that we are family. You should understand what kind of position Qing Luo holds in this queen's heart. Junior understands. Yang Kai nodded seriously. Let's talk about the divine spirits. Qiyu was very satisfied with Yang Kai's attitude. As this queen said just now, among the divine spirits. Dragons and phoenixes. Dragons and dragon race. The golden divine dragon was revered again. What you inherited is the golden divine dragon source. Golden divine dragon. Yang Kai's eyes narrowed. Yang Kai, you young even among the divine spirits is to begin to be divine spirits now, you to the king to the heavens to the monster king's spirit? Yang Kai gently nodded and suddenly smiled. Senior being able to resist this kind of temptation is truly worthy of this junior's admiration. Queen to Yang to you Yang to tease to me, s. To Yang soul to spirit of to Yang's to be, s to you, this king, ha. Yang Kai chuckled dryly. However, this queen is also very curious as to how much of the divine dragon source you have inherited. Qiyu looked at Yang Kai with interest, carefully sweeping him with her divine sense, but still wearing a look of suspicion. I don't know, Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders. Oh, that's strange. Chapter 1587. This smelly brat really isn't easy to deal with, Qiyu cursed in her heart. However, she did not expect Yang Kai to agree so easily. With his shrewdness, how could he not inquire about these things clearly? Good, Qiyu sighed. The reason why I want you to obtain it is because only you can do it. Although the top master of my monster race has fallen, its origin essence crystal is not easy to obtain. Any attempt to lay a finger on it will cause it to resist and most likely self-destruct, leaving nothing behind. Does it have sentience? Yang Kai was stunned. No, it just has a trace of the remnant soul of that monster race master attached to it. Chiyu slowly shook her head. I need it to comprehend the mysteries of the Third Order Origin King realm, and only you can use the power of the Golden Divine Dragon to suppress it for a moment before capturing it. Do you understand? I understand. Yang Kai nodded, but Junior still doesn't quite understand. Since Senior wants it so badly, why don't you do it yourself? With your means, isn't it easy to suppress it? What kind of joke is that? Chiyu shouted angrily, don't you know that Green Mountain Star has a Star Master? Secretly sending a few monster race juniors into the blood prison is one thing, but if this queen had gone to Green Mountain Star personally, how could he have given up? Fighting with him on his own turf, this queen isn't stupid enough to do that. Green Mountain Star actually has a Star Master? Yang Kai was surprised. Wasn't there no Third Order Origin King on Green Mountain Star? Who knows where that guy got his luck from? With just a Second Order Origin King, he dared to refine the source of a star. The most infuriating thing is that he actually succeeded. Chiyu's pretty face twisted as she seemed to recognize this Star Master. Yang Kai gently nodded. If this was the case, then everything made sense. Green Mountain Star had a Star Master presiding over it, so Chiyu did not dare to go there easily. Both of them were Second-Order Origin Kings, so if they fought elsewhere, they might be evenly matched, but on Green Mountain Star, Chiyu would definitely not be the Star Master's opponent. As for the Monster Race Master's Monster Core, it could also be called an Origin Essence Crystal, but it was extremely sensitive. Any attempt to touch it would lead to unpredictable consequences, but the Golden Holy Dragon's Draconic might had a suppressive effect on it. Just like how he had suppressed Shuelian before. This is this consort's suggestion. Whether you agree or not, you can carefully consider it for a few days. In any case, there was still some time before the blood prison trial began. I can wait. Chiyu looked at Yang Kai with a smile. It was as if he was sure that he would win. There's nothing to consider. I agree. To Chiyu's surprise, Yang Kai readily agreed. But I have a condition. Yang Kai grinned. What? First, tell me the method to excavate the source power of the sacred dragon. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Red Moon was so angry that she laughed. That's the reward you get after you succeed. Why would I hand it over to you now? Yang Kai shook his head lightly. Senior, you're wrong to think that way. According to what Senior said before, whether I can succeed or not depends on the suppression of the Golden Holy Dragon. This junior knows nothing about the Golden Holy Dragon's source power and doesn't know how to use it. What if something happens and the Origin Essence Crystal explodes? Presumably, Senior doesn't want to see such a result, right? Chiyu's pretty face sank as her brow furrowed. It was undeniable that even if she understood that Yang Kai was just spouting nonsense, what he said was exactly what she was worried about. So, to be on the safe side, I think Senior should teach me the method first. As such, he was very grateful to Xia Ningchang and was very close to Yang Kai. Yang Kai, you have to be careful on this trip to the blood prison. Everyone there should be a minor realm higher than you, so don't be too arrogant, Bahi whispered. Junior has always been very low-key, Yang Kai chuckled. Bahi couldn't help rolling his eyes. By the way, Senior, who are those two? Yang Kai turned his eyes to the two monster race newcomers he had never met before and asked. Bahi naturally wouldn't conceal anything and immediately introduced them to Yang Kai in a low voice. One of the two was a well-developed woman called Shue Sunday. She came from the Furious Crab territory and seemed to be a capable subordinate of the Furious Crab Overlord. The other was a sunny young man called Lai Feng. He came from the Wild Lion territory and was also a capable subordinate of the Wild Lion Overlord. Fierce Crab Tribal Lord and Wild Lion Tribal Lord didn't have any decent heirs, so they could only send their best subordinates to participate in the blood prison trial. Whether it was Shue's son or Lai Feng, both were famous in their respective territories. Yang Kai gently nodded, remembering them in his mind. These two monster race masters also seemed to be very interested in Yang Kai and would occasionally glance at him. When their eyes met, Lai Feng would even show an amiable smile to Yang Kai. This guy shouldn't be difficult to get along with. Yang Kai thought to himself. The hall was completely silent as time slowly passed by. Everyone was resting with their eyes closed as they waited quietly. Yang Kai's divine sense continued to scan the ultra-long distance space array in the hall, prying into its mysteries. He suddenly discovered that the layout of this array was somewhat similar to the altar that connected Monster Star and Spider Mother's nest, but he couldn't figure out what kind of connection there was. A day later, Chi Yu and the other tribal lord level masters suddenly opened their eyes at the same time, a brilliant light flashing across their eyes. "It's begun!" Wild Lion Tribal Lord shouted. The 8 Origin returning realm masters who were waiting to depart also wore shocked expressions and stood up together. The 3 monster race tribal lords didn't move at all, but all of them suddenly arrived at the edge of the ultra-long distance space array and stood in a triangular formation with solemn expressions on their faces. "Do it!" Chi Yu shouted in a tender voice, her hands suddenly forming a series of profound and complicated seals. The same was true for Nu Xie and Guangshi. As these seals emerged, the 3 powerful tribal lord-level monster race masters gradually released terrifying energy fluctuations. The Origin returning realm cultivators in the hall stared at all of this in a daze, secretly wondering when they would be able to display such power with just a wave of their hands. Being schemed against by a mere second-order Origin returning realm human brat? How could Chi Yu say such a thing? If she really did say it out loud, she would definitely be laughed at by Nu Xie and Guangshi. She would never do such a shameful thing. This little brat's methods are quite good. No wonder he asked me to hand over the half of the monster transformation secret art to Yu Xiong for safekeeping. It turns out he already had a plan. What about Qing Luo? Would she also leave with him? Thinking so, Chi Yu's mind became chaotic and her expression became extremely ugly. Being schemed against by Yang Kai was one thing, and if he had really obtained the Origin Essence Crystal and reached a deal with Yu Xiong, she wouldn't have suffered a loss. But if he had taken Qing Luo away with just a few words, where would she find her in this vast star territory? If such a thing really happens, even if I have to go to the ends of the earth, this queen will take your head. Chi Yu secretly swore to herself.